Okay, okay. Should be live. Should be live. Just wait for a couple people to join, set everything up here, then we'll get started. Where was I? And I hope my microphone works. Been having problems with it again. Okay, everything's set up. So, as usual, if somebody in the chat could let me know if the audio's working, because again, microphone issues. Yo, shout out to Bruce Gas. Good to see you here, bro. God bless. Sounds good? Yeah, awesome. Thanks, man. Awesome. My microphone, for whatever reason, when I go live, has a habit of turning itself down, and I've got to mess about with the settings and whatnot. So yeah, good to see you here, Bruce. God bless you every time. Shout out to the 90s. Big up to you, bro. Audio's good. Awesome. Awesome. Thanks, man. Shout out to Iron Fist. God bless you, bro. What's up, buddy? Hope you're good. Yeah, I'm all good, man. I'm in a good mood. Uh, stayed in a hotel last night. Went out for a meal with the missus up in up north somewhere, and yeah, took the day off work. Had a good day. Had a big ass 3-course dinner, and yeah, we came back this morning. So yeah, I actually just got back within the past half hour or so. So yeah, I've not been back for long. I figured I'd jump on live since it's been a while since I did one of these. Had nothing else planned for the night. So yeah, I'm in a pretty good mood, all things considered. Shout out to reversely based Christian values. Yeah, yeah, of course, man. Absolutely. Every time. I mean, what else is there? What else is there? Absolutely. I mean, someone's got to do it, haven't they? Someone's got to be a light in the darkness, as they say. Hello there, friend. Hello to you too, Valley. Good to see you here, bro. God bless you. Every time. Shout out to Jason Blonde. Good to see you here. My favorite boxing channel. Respect, bro. Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate it. I know there's not been much boxing content on the channel lately, but there's going to be a lot more. That's a promise because got some retrospective videos in production. I'm going to be doing my Clinton Woods one, which I actually meant to do at the back end of last year, but I got kind of caught up doing other things. So yeah, I had a lot of content for the other channel. I wanted to get out the way first. So now that that's cleared up at the minute, I've got plenty of time to focus on this channel. So yeah, I've had some random, just spur of the moment videos for the channel in the past couple weeks or so, and yeah, I'm gonna be getting back on track with some proper edited content. But yeah, that's all gonna be coming in recent weeks and months. You're playing that new boxing game, looks mediocre. I've not played it myself, but I watched some of Fight Scout's gameplay of it. I watched some of his live. He was doing a live stream of it, and yeah, I gotta be honest. I mean, look, the graphics are nice. Some of the like character models and the movements look pretty good. But in terms of the overall gameplay, I haven't really seen anything that was any better than the Fight Night games, if you know what I mean. I mean, I would probably, based on what I've seen so far, I would probably just stick to doing, um, to just playing Fight Night Champion or Fight Night Round 4, because I don't really see this massive leap in technology, if you know what I mean. Like, yeah, the game looks better, but I don't think that the overall technicalities and the overall gameplay are really that impressive based on what I've seen. But I haven't played it myself, so I can't accurately comment on it. I can only go off what I've seen, and what I've seen so far, I've not been overly impressed, if truth be told. Not boxing related, but you ever thought of doing a Christian channel as well as this one? There are not enough good Christian channels out there. I have thought about doing that, but the problem with that is, and I'm not saying I won't ever do it, but the problem is, see, starting a new channel nowadays, it's so difficult to do. And especially if you're going to talk about things that are censored and things that are not generally favored by the algorithm, the channel will go nowhere. it'll get no subscribers, it'll get no views, and it'll never get monetized. And even if it does, it'll probably get demonetized and shadow banned. And I feel as if putting Christian content on this channel, which already has a bit of a built-in audience and already has 10,000 subscribers, and I don't really expect it to go much beyond that, but at least it has that, at least we got there. I think since it has that, it makes more sense, and I think there's more chance of my content reaching people, if you know what I mean, on this channel. That's just kind of how I see it. I think I just think, like I said, there's already an audience for this channel, so if I'm putting content on here, people are gonna hear it, and I know it's not always gonna be what people want to hear. It's not always gonna be the boxing content, which is the primary focus of the channel, but it is what it is, man. You never know. Maybe I'll make another channel dedicated to my Christian preaching, but you never know, man. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I have thought about it to answer your question. I definitely have. I have thought about it. Nordic, have you played the MGS series, Metal Gear Solid? My favorite games. When I was gaming, I played all of them multiple times. Rayman was also one of my favorites. I'm a big fan of Rayman. The first Rayman was actually one of the first games I ever owned. I reviewed the Rayman series on my other channel, my gaming channel. But Metal Gear Solid, I've never actually played, believe it or not, but I know pretty much what I need to know about the series. It's a great stealth game series, and yeah, I would really like to do it. I've thought about buying the HD trilogy that I think they released for, was it the 360 back in the day? I've thought about buying that and maybe giving it a review, or maybe if I come across the original PS1 one for a decent enough price, I might pick that one up. Yeah, a lot of people believe it's the greatest PS1 game of all time, and I've never actually played it, but I definitely would love to. I don't know why, for whatever reason, I think when the Metal Gear Solid games came out, I was very young, and I was more into platformers like Rayman and Spyro and games like that. So, Crash Bandicoot and whatnot. So yeah, I never got around to playing those games. But as I got older and I got into games like Hitman and the Arkham games and whatnot, I really did develop a appreciation for stealth games. So I definitely do want to check Metal Gear Solid out at some point because it does look great from what I've seen. I like the sort of old school isometric stealth games like that. Hiding in boxes and peeking around corners and whatnot. And it's something that was emulated in a lot of games. They tried to not just copy it, but obviously emulate and replicate what was done in Metal Gear Solid. And they were definitely very influential games. You played Halo. I'm enjoying those games a lot right now. Yeah, I reviewed the Halo trilogy. If you didn't see it on my gaming channel, that's the thing. I like the first three Halo games. I don't have much experience with any of the others though. Halo 3 was always my favorite. I think Halo 3 had a great campaign. Like the story was really interesting, had a great soundtrack. The graphics were amazing for the time, the shooting mechanics, and it's one of my personal favorite first person shooters, along with Time Splitters Future Perfect and the King Kong game and whatnot. I'd say they're probably up there as my top three first person shooters. You should give it a try. Yeah, the HD trilogy was worth it. Is worth it. I have it on PS3. Metal Gear Solid 4 was great too. Give it a try after the older games. Great game mechanics, very intelligently built. Yeah, I definitely will try them, and I would love to review them one day as well. I think that would be fun. Because yeah, like I say, I developed as I got older. A great appreciation for stealth games. I really enjoy them. Hello, Nordic. How's it going? Yeah, good to see you here, man. Sorry. Good to see you here, man. God bless. Every time. Yeah, had a great day. Had a great day today. Went out with the missus, had a three-course dinner, and we stayed in a hotel. It's been a good weekend so far. Had the day off on Friday. Yeah, it's been good. I'm in a good mood. Figured I'd jump on a live stream since I've got nothing planned for the evening. I bought the Xbox One collection and trying through them all. Much better than Fortnite or COD trash, yeah. Yeah, I've never played Fortnite. Battle royale games like that are not really my thing. Call of Duty, I lost interest years ago. I think the last Call of Duty I was into was the original Modern Warfare 2, and I realized that from that point on, they were just releasing the same shit every year, and yeah, I lost interest in Call of Duty. But yeah, Halo 3, I think's a great game that stands up today. Nice one. Yeah, good to see you here, man. Yeah, it's been a good day. Favorite GTA game? My favorite GTA game personally is San Andreas. Um, I have more of a nostalgic connection with Vice City because that's the one that got me into the series. Vice City was, but San Andreas, objectively speaking, is the better game. It has so much more content. And interestingly, I like San Andreas more than the ones that came out after. I like it more than GTA 4, which I think was overrated. And I like it more than GTA 5, which I think was just empty, if you know what I mean. Like, there was so much more content, so much more to do, so much more RPG elements, better combat, better shooting, more customization, more vehicles. Like San Andreas just had so much more, and it had a jetpack. So hard to compete with that. Did you play the Hitman series? I certainly did. Some of my favorite games of all time. In fact, Hitman Blood Money is my second favorite game of all time after Spyro 3. I've actually got a video on my gaming channel, my top 100 favorite games of all time, if you want to check that out. And yeah, Hitman Blood Money, which is the fourth game in the Hitman series, that's my second favorite game of all time after Spyro Year of the Dragon. San Andreas GTA 5. Yeah, I prefer San Andreas personally. GTA 5 was big and it was a technically proficient game, but I just found it boring. I found the open world empty. I found the characters boring and NPC like, if you know what I mean. I wasn't fond of it. It was a bit of a boring game, I thought. But San Andreas, I was never bored with. I had an absolute blast with it. Have you tried Just Cause? I had the second game and it was very fun. Never played it, but I've heard of it. I heard it's popular. A lot of people like it. Oops, sorry, 1 second. Hello, God bless. Good to see you here, Lee. God bless you too, every time. Always good to see you here. I know it's been a while since I've streamed. Been very, very busy. I'm running out of excuses. I remember playing San Andreas on the PS2 and Vice City on the PSP. I also have a lot of nostalgia for GTA 4 because I played it so much when I was younger. Yeah. Like that that's kind of how I am with Vice City. Like I loved Vice City. That was like I said, the one that got me into the series. So in that sense, it'll always be my favorite. But objectively speaking, San Andreas had so much more to it. That it was just a much bigger, better game, with all the improvements, and it was so ambitious for the time. I can't believe that game came out the time it did. Coming out in 2004 and being so big and so packed full of content. And yeah, it's the Xbox version that I have. I've played the PS2 version as well. It's practically the same, but yeah, I have the Xbox version of Vice City and San Andreas. Vice City, I've actually got both versions. I've got the PS2 and Xbox versions. I tend to play the Xbox version more because it's backwards compatible with the Xbox 360, so I can play it in HD and whatnot. Skycard is trash tonight. Can't be bothered to stream it. Can't wait for Wood versus Lara. Yeah, Wood versus Lara, man. That's a good fight. Great fight. And I think Lee Wood's going to win it, but I think he's going to have to survive a scare here and there to win that fight, if you know what I mean. Like, Lara can punch. He's got a decent chin. I wouldn't say he's got a great chin, but he's got a good chin. Decent chin. And I think Wood, he might have just as much power as Lara. He's not like as overly aggressive with it, but he does have good power. So I could see either guy getting stopped, but I think most likely it's going to be Wood that wins. And I wouldn't be surprised if it went the distance and if Wood won on points. It wouldn't surprise me one bit, but I think he's the better fighter. he's chinny, but as long as he doesn't get caught too cleanly, he's the better fighter, yeah, and he should win it. I also recently got the OG Battlefront 2 game on Xbox Series X. Goated game. Yeah, yeah, Battlefront 2 is amazing, like, the original one from Pandemic, that was incredible. Interestingly, that's my, if I remember rightly, that's my 20th favorite game of all time, the original Battlefront 2. It's amazing. And then they made the flipping remake of it years later from EA, and it was, like, filled with microtransactions, and it was all online, and yeah, modern gaming sucks, man. But yeah, the OG Battlefront 2 is amazing, and yeah, it's backwards compatible on the Xbox One. I play it on there sometimes. Did you see the definitive edition where they remastered GTA 3, Vice City, and San Andreas? Yeah, and they completely destroyed them, like like it was raining indoors, and the rain was so thick that there was headache inducing on the screen. It was basically like a terrible filter, and it just looked awful. It looked purely ridiculous. Yeah, and there were so many glitches and bugs. I mean, glitches for games that came out in the early 2000s, all they had to do was update the graphics, and they couldn't even do it, so that was a epic failure, and they were actually charging full price when you can just go and buy the originals that were actually a lot better, Like, you could play the originals on PS2 and Xbox, and they look better, and they play better. Best footwork in boxing. Right, I would say probably Lomachenko. He's got the best balance and the best sort of fluidity. Usyk is close, but obviously he's a lot bigger and heavier. So I don't think he could ever really match the just the fleet-footedness and moving like the wind that Lomachenko is known for. I mean, he was a dancer as a kid, wasn't he? So that would have taught him good footwork. I think Wood might bang him out. Wouldn't surprise me. Wouldn't surprise me. Like, either one of them could knock the other out. I think if anyone wins on points, it's probably Wood. He will have the home advantage, and not only that, I think he's genuinely the better boxer. And I think he'll probably outbox Lara, who I think is a bit crude and a bit more easy to hit. He's got the better punching technique, the better defense. I favor Wood. I favored him from the beginning, to be honest. Hope all is good, my man. Good to see you back. Yeah, good to see you here, man. God bless you every time. The rain looks like Zeus pissing. Yeah, yeah. It's like lightning, isn't it? And it's headache inducing, and you stand inside and you see the rain. Terrible, man. I never played it, but I saw a bunch of reviews, and I'm like, yeah, I think I'll stick to the original. Have you ever played the old NFS games? On Need for Speed Carbon is probably my favorite game of all time. Never played them. That's the thing. Racing games, I've never been personally that into racing games unless it's a game like Crash Team Racing or Rayman Rush or something like that. Like just regular racing games, I've never been a big fan of them. But I have played some of them, but I don't think I've played the Need for Speed games personally. I don't think I've ever like come across them. Might try them out at some point. You would think they would put more effort into remastering these classic games than put Rocksmith, because they know if they put GTA in the title, they'll make money. Okay, can you guys hear me? Should be working now. Having flipping problems with my internet. It's being an asshole. I don't know. Maybe the Illuminati are trying to shut me down or something. Who knows? But yeah, if you can let me know if you can hear me, much appreciated. Yeah, yeah. Rockstar basically forced all the San Andreas modders offline for the new trash. Yeah, they were basically suing them. They were suing modders, flipping threatening to take them to court and all that for actually making good content and not getting paid for it either. You think they would give the modders a job, and they would probably do a better job than flipping Rockstar Games themselves, you know? I'd have thought so anyway. I know, flipping ridiculous that was. Yeah, yeah, I was having audio problems. Sorry about that, bro. Sorry, not audio problems, connection problems, my bad. Yeah. Yeah, it seems to be working now, which is my internet was conking out for a minute. I don't know why. It's annoying when that happens at the best of times, especially not if I'm going live. Michael Obama versus Tyson Fury. I got Michael Obama. Yeah, Michael Obama, aka Obama's husband, with the big knob, the big black cock. Shout out to Joker. Good to see you here, bro. God bless. Love you, bro. Your channel has been a blessing to me. Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that. That's great to hear, man. It really is. God bless you. Late, what have I missed? Not much, man. I was just having some connection problems there. It was a pain in the arse. Really annoying, but it seems to be working for now anyway. But yeah, we were just talking about video games and stuff like that. Grand Theft Auto, Halo, Metal Gear Solid, Rayman. Usual stuff. And yeah, a little bit about boxing. Talked about Wood versus Lara. I think Wood's going to beat Lara probably either by wide decision or a late stoppage, but I give Lara a puncher's chance. That's about it. That's the gist of it. Yeah, and good to see you here. Volume's perfect. Hope all is good, everyone. Yeah, yeah, the seems all right now. I think it was just my internet connection because the whole screen was going slow and it was saying, "Do you want to wait or close down the program or whatever?" And yeah, it's annoying. It happens from time to time, but it is what it is, man. It's all good. And yeah, good to see you here, brother. God bless. But yeah, what were we talking about before? Yeah, yeah, the GTA modders were getting sued by flipping Rockstar. Guys are actually trying to fix the game or make the game better, and they were getting flipping sued because of it. I know it's ridiculous, man. And like I was saying, you think they would just give them a job or something? It'd make a lot more sense. But yeah, boxing at the moment, there's not really much going on. There's that Ray Vargas fight, and I can't even really think of anything else that's coming up other than Lee Wood versus Lara next week that I'm really interested in, which is why I've not been doing predictions because there's really nothing that I want to look at and analyze in regards to boxing right now. It's just too boring. Hopefully later on in the year we get like Usyk or someone like that in the ring, and we get something that I feel like talking about. Because right now it's just my retrospective videos that I've got planned for the channel at the moment. Outside of that, there's basically nothing. Nothing that I care to talk about right now, anyway. Back in a minute, guys. One moment. Yeah. So I was reading my notifications there, and I've got one guy on my Andre Ward video who is very insistent that Paul Smith was robbed against Arthur Abraham. I hope to God that this guy's trolling and he's just trying to get a reaction out of me, but you know, do I really need to make a do I really need to make a film study about that fight? Really? Do I really need to do a punch count and talk about the absolute nonsense spread by the Sky Sports commentators? Ah, man, some people just don't know what they're looking at, do they? Interestingly, that is one video that I've thought about making. But I'm not actually sure how to properly articulate it or how to really start it. I wanted to do a video on sort of the history of biased commentary on boxing and how it influenced so many false narratives and false opinions that have been spread over the years. And I think that the whole Sky Sports and the way they talk about Germany would be a good place to start, you know. But yeah, that's one thing I've had in concept. It hasn't really gone anywhere yet. Now where was I? My internet seems to be flipping. I don't know, man. It's going slow. It's not loading comments for some reason. One second. I'm gonna refresh the page. I'll be back in a minute, guys. Again, sorry about that, guys. My flipping page was crashing. I couldn't see nothing. All right, here's the comments. Plant or Benavides? That's a really good fight. Really interesting fight, actually. And see, when it first got announced, I thought that the most likely outcome for it would be that it would be Benavides by stoppage because there's just something about Plant that I've always found a little bit. He's always seemed a bit chinny to me, and he's always seemed to have stamina issues. Like I always think back to that the fight he had against what's his name, Uzkata guy, where as the fight went on, he just got slower and slower, and his defense just got so ragged. But I think Plant is a little bit better than he was then. And Benavides is one of these guys who he's got all the physical talents, but he's so flipping limited, you know, like in terms of technically he's not great. He gets hit, you know, he's been dropped before, a little bit clumsy, and he's also a guy who's had a lot of out of the ring problems, hasn't he? Shout out to Carnival, good to see you here, man. God bless. Greetings. Is this Foster guy any good? I've honestly no idea, man. No idea. I don't think I've even seen him fight. Tyron Zoig is coming back on the Sturm card. Oh, is he now? Tyron Zoig's coming back. Do you know what? I'm gonna look that up actually. Let's have a look. Um, I thought he was retired. Tyron Zoig. Like he's not fought in like years. When was the last time he fought? Was it like 2018 or something? Let me have a look. Wait there. All right, yeah, he's fighting. Interesting. Yeah, yeah. I thought Tyron Zoig was done. I didn't think he was even fighting. I actually did rate him quite highly back in the day. I thought he was a little bit better than advertised, but then he got smashed by flipping what's his name, Rocky Fielding, and yeah, he just went off the rails after that. You know, I finally cancelled the zone after price changes. Was gonna wait for Wood versus Lara, then cancel. Yeah, yeah, Wood versus Lara would be a good one to watch before it gets cancelled. You know, or before you cancel your thing. You know. Because again, that is a good fight, and like I said, that's one of the only fights in like recent weeks and months that I've got any like genuine interest in, because I genuinely think it's a good fight. And like I say, I think Lee Wood is going to surprise a few people. Like if he's on point And if he actually comes to fight and doesn't fuck about and doesn't, if he doesn't get sort of taken over by some sort of macho streak, then I think he should win it. I genuinely do. Yeah, Sturm's fighting against a level opponent. It's even on the zone. I didn't know it was on the zone. Come to think of it, yeah, Felix Sturm's one of these guys who must be desperate for money, man. He must be. Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree, Alex. I would have thought Sturm would have retired by now as well. Like, what? Why he's still fighting? I mean, it's just about money. It has to be. Like, I can't think of another reason he's still boxing. Given his legal trouble, it makes perfect sense, doesn't it? That he still needs money. Just so you guys know, I'm going through my what do you call them? My different tabs here, and I'm noticing that the comments for this stream, they're showing up, but they're not showing up on the actual stream yard. They're showing up on YouTube. So I can read the comments by looking at my second tab and going onto YouTube. I don't know what's going on here. I think because my internet crashed earlier, I'm in a position where I'm just not able to I'm not able to access the comments for some reason. Like, I can access them using the actual YouTube tab, so I can see them there. So yeah, if I'm slow responding to comments, I apologize. If you Lewis Lou JG says, if you could pick Taylor's next opponent, who would it be and at what weight? Josh Taylor's next opponent. I don't really care who Josh Taylor fights. I think, if truth be told, I think he's fucked about a bit too much in the past year. He's wasted everybody's time. The Catterall rematch, I had no interest in it, but if it was going to happen, it should have happened last summer. There was no reason for it not to. And I don't know what he's playing at now. They're talking about fighting Tiafimo at 140. I don't know why he hasn't just moved up to 147. Like, I wouldn't mind seeing him fight like Virgil Ortiz or what's his name? What's the guy's name? Meme Machine. I wouldn't mind him seeing fight those guys, at 147. But whatever, it's up to him, innit? I could care less at this point. Yeah, yeah, I agree. Give me Taylor versus Virgil Ortiz. If Ortiz beats Stanionis, I'd love to see that fight. It's a good test. Fury versus Usyk negotiation isn't going well from what I'm hearing. Fury talking about moving on, blaming Usyk for the hold up. Yeah. I think that fight will happen because where else is both guys going to go? What are they going to fight? Joe Joyce? Are they going to fight Zili Zhang? Are they going to fight Hrgovic? Like, who cares about those fights? Yeah, the Joe Joyce fight would be a good fight for either one of them, but it's not exactly a big fight, is it? Fighting Zhang or fighting Hrgovic, these are not big fights, and I just think there's more money to be made in the Fury Usyk fight because it's a big historic fight. It's two white guys, two Europeans fighting for the undisputed title. It's a historic event. It's both guys are undefeated. Both guys are very, very well regarded. Both guys are Christians. It's I don't know. It's a big fight. There's a lot of history there, and there's a lot to talk about. So I just don't see any reason logistically why that fight won't happen. And plus, I don't think either guy is really scared of the other. I don't think Fury's scared of Usyk, and I don't think Usyk is scared of anybody. So why not? It's the biggest money fight that can be made in the division, and it's a historic fight between two unbeaten guys. What fights do you want to see that aren't being talked about? Fights that I want to see that aren't being talked about. Let me think about that. Do you know? I don't know why we haven't seen AJ versus Dillian White too. That's a fight makes perfect sense as far as I'm concerned. Wilder versus Ruiz. That's a fight that I know that was being talked about for a while, but it's kind of gone quiet there's decent scraps at heavyweight between sort of the gatekeeper guys that could be made that I would like to see. We used to get fights like that a lot in the division, but it seems to be just all mismatches. With big names fighting bums. So there's quite a few fights out there that could be made that are not being talked about. There's rumors of a Tio versus Taylor. I mean, see if that fight happens, they're gonna have to really follow the script because if that's a real fight, yeah, good luck getting past a few rounds, Tio. If that's a real fight, I mean, that's a slaughter. But has Tio ever had a real fight in his career? I don't know, man. I really don't. Suspect he probably hasn't, other than maybe the Cambosis fight. We need Beevil, but shout out to Brandon Blanco. Good to see you here, bro. God bless you. We need Beevil versus Beterbiev as well, but the whole Russia cancel culture won't happen anytime soon. Yeah, Beevil versus Beterbiev is another one. Like, there's no reason for that fight not to happen. No reason whatsoever. It's a again, it's a historic fight. It's two undefeated guys, two guys who are considered pound for pound guys by a lot of people. Both of them, they may not be the biggest names, they may not be the biggest fan bases, but that they are pretty much beloved and well respected by hardcore boxing fans. So yeah, that's a fight that's got to happen, man. It's got to. How can it not? I mean, I know Callum Smith is there, but no one's interested in that. Both guys fought a mandatory in their last fight, so even if the WBC isn't going to be on the line, if they are determined to make sure that Callum Smith gets a shot, then just vacate the belt. Who cares? Who cares about undisputed? Undisputed only lasts one fight most of the time anyway, so just vacate the belt and let Callum Smith fight for it, and let's have them guys give us a historic fight. But will it happen? I don't know, man. But there's no reason for it not to happen. Liam Williams versus Janibek and Josh Kelly versus Conor Benn. I want to see. Yeah, Liam Williams versus Janibek's a good fight. I mean, I think like Janibek will probably beat him. He might even stop him, but he'll probably beat him. But I think Liam Williams, if he's in good shape, if he doesn't jump to the floor every time he gets hit with a speculative jab, he should be able to make the fight at least a little bit competitive. I want to see. Yeah, sorry, I already read that. What's your thoughts on Haney wanting more money and concussions from Loma? I'm not interested in that fight. Devin Haney's another one who's never had a real fight. All his fights are fixed, as far as I'm concerned. He's he's a Dindu. He didn't do nothing, and he's also a Kang who's been oppressed. So now that he's got a bit of power, you got to pay him the crown jewels to get him in the ring, basically. Because he's a Kang and because he didn't do nothing. And Loma's, an oppressive, evil white man who's got to pay reparations. So yeah, you can't blame Haney for trying to get what he can get. I don't see Bivol versus Beterbiev ever happening. It wouldn't surprise me if it didn't happen. Wouldn't surprise me at all. I mean, it kind of reminds me of Kovalev versus Stevenson. There was no reason for that fight not to happen, but again, politics got in the way, clashing egos got in the way, and mandatories and money and whatnot. All that stuff gets in the way. HBO obviously wanted Ward to be the guy to get the title from Kovalev. That's why they fixed the whole they fixed the whole division to accommodate Ward and make sure that he got that win. So I think that kind of got in the way of what would have been a great historic undisputed fight. And it's the same with Bivol Beterbiev. They probably want someone like Canelo to pick up those belts. They don't want it to be some random Russian, do they? I think those are good fights for Janibek, given he's getting avoided so bad. He should have respected names. He should fight respected names. Keep building name with UK fans. Yeah, fighting UK fighters is a good way to build your name because UK fans are good at talking trash online and building up their guys above their ability. And If Janibek beats Liam Williams, but it's a competitive fight, you'll get all the articles about how Liam Williams was robbed or how Liam Williams did better than people thought, and it was a career best performance. Kind of like you see every time a British fighter performs well in a fight where they're the underdog. It's the Paul Smith syndrome, the Paul Smith effect. Hail from Windhelm. Good to see you here, Rolf. God bless you every time. Based. Keep getting belligerently drunk and chasing away them greyskins. What fight have you been to see live, and do you enjoy going to watch boxing live? Yeah, I really enjoy it. I've been to see a lot of fights live. I've been to see some like local domestic shows. I've been to see some world title fights. I went to one of Josh Warrington's fights, his fight against Galahad. It was. I went to Crawler Linares too. I went to Flanagan versus Magdaleno, where on the undercard there was Liam Smith winning his world title against John Thompson. So yeah, I've been to Liam Smith's title win, and yeah, I've been to a lot of fights. I've been to several world title fights. I went to Josh Taylor's fight against Winston Campos. So I've been to a lot of fights. Yeah, Kovalev versus Machuno, quite interesting for me. Machuno really the WBC champ. Yeah, Machuno clearly won against um Ilunga Makabu in their rematch. I know he got stopped in the first fight, but he clearly won the rematch. So yeah, that's as good as a world title fight for Kovalev. But Kovalev is shot to pieces, and I think Machuno will probably beat him. But if Kovalev can kind of wind back the clock a bit, he might be able to win it. It's an interesting fight. I don't see him winning it, but if he's like say 70% of prime Kovalev, then I think he could win it. How do you see Bivol Beterbiev playing out? Do you know, for the longest time, I favoured Beterbiev, but I got to be honest, in that Anthony Yard fight, even though he won the fight, and he won the fight clearly, and he did so by knockout, and I didn't have him losing a round personally, I think he showed slight vulnerabilities, like his reflexes and his timing maybe have slowed down a little bit, and he maybe doesn't have the intense work rate that he used to have, and I think that could be a problem because Beevil's a lot younger, he's a lot quicker, a lot faster, and his legs are just fresher. And I could see, so in short, I could see Beevil outpointing him from the outside, but I still think that Beterbiev has the power to get in and fuck him up. But I just think that Beevil's superior legs and his stamina might see him to the victory. So yeah, I favour Beevil at this stage, if truth be told. But it's a great fight. I don't understand why Fury isn't signing to fight Usyk. There's no reason for the fight not to happen. Well, he probably will, but I think he just wants to make sure that he builds up the fight as much as he can in the media, and of course gets the biggest financial split. Because obviously he wants to make a lot of money from it, because it'll probably be his retirement fight. Most likely. Same thing happened with Denzel Bentley. He gave it a go. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. He gave it a good go. He came to fight, but ultimately he just fell short. It seems to happen a lot with British fighters, doesn't it? They always seem to give it a go, but then fall short. Thoughts on Bam versus Christian Gonzalez? I don't think I've ever watched Christian Gonzalez, so I don't know. Probably Bam. I don't know, man. Never watched him fight. Never watched Gonzalez fight, but Bam's pretty good. Can't see Yard being the same fighter after that fight. Crazy damage. Yeah, Yard took an absolute pasting, and let's not forget he also took a pasting from Kovalev. So that's two really, really bad beatings. So it's going to be a tough ask for him to come back. And if truth be told, even putting those beatings aside, I don't think that Anthony Yard, I don't think he really has the body mechanics to be a great fighter. He doesn't have the stamina. He's too heavily muscular. He doesn't really throw straight punches very well. And if truth be told, I just think that he's I think he's a guy who just lacks the fluidity and the aerobic fitness to be a world class fighter. Like, I can't see him fighting a hard 12 rounds at a good pace against any world class fighter, you know? Do you give Callum Smith a chance against Beterbiev? I give him a puncher's chance. You know, I give him the same chance that I gave Yard and the same chance that I gave Joe Smith, a puncher's chance. But I I, I don't think he'll beat him. I think Beterbiev's just too technically proficient. He punches even harder. He's even quicker. And I think back to the John Ryder fight where Callum Smith got beat up on the inside and he couldn't really handle the physical strength and the pressure of John Ryder. I mean, I know he was drained, but if he's struggling with John Ryder like that, imagine what is going to happen if Beterbiev gets inside and starts hitting him to the body and hitting him with chopping hooks to the head. I mean, yeah, I think Beterbiev stops him, but I give him a puncher's chance. But yeah, like I said, I think the likely outcome is that Beterbiev stops him. Evening, mate. Good to see you here, Reese. God bless. Evening, mate. What do you think is going on with Fury versus Usyk? I've heard it looks unlikely now. Yeah, we were talking about this earlier. I think Fury just wants to drag it out as much as possible to build it up and try and get himself the best deal possible financially. Because we know that neither guy's really got anything to fear. It's probably the last fight of their careers, and I don't think either guy's scared of the other, and I definitely don't think that Usyk is scared. So yeah, they just want to make as much money as possible. Ritson or O'Hara Davis. I think O'Hara will beat Ritson. Ritson is a guy who's taken heavy beatings in his career and he's just so limited. And I think that his come forward pressure fighting style might play into O'Hara Davis's hands because O'Hara Davis is quite good at setting traps. He's got a good long jab, a good powerful lead straight right hand from distance, and a left hook that he's quite sneaky with. So I think that his reach advantage and his power from distance would be the difference there. Never really rated Lewis Ritson that highly. I think he's very limited. Yeah, I agree with Reese. I think Davis wins that one by stoppage. Personally, it'll be a fun fight while it lasts, though. I've never seen a guy lose his power like Ritson did, moving up from 35 to 140. Yeah, do you know what? It kind of reminds me of when Arthur Abraham was fighting at middleweight and he was knocking everybody out. Then he moved up one weight to 168, and all of a sudden he became sort of a technician. Like his power was gone. Well, not gone. He could still punch, but it wasn't the same. When you fight bigger guys, more durable guys, sometimes your power doesn't translate. I mean, Manny Pacquiao was able to bring his power up multiple divisions, but when he reached welterweight, I think he'd finally met his match. He was finally fighting guys that were just too big to knock out. So yeah, he ended up going the distance in most of his fights. Is what it is. But yeah, sometimes when fighters move up in weight, they don't take the power with them. Is what it is. And let's not forget too, when Ritson did move up in weight, one thing that needs to be taken into consideration is the fact that he was fighting better competition. Like when he fought Patera and guys like that, he was fighting genuine European and high domestic level guys. Whereas when he was knocking out, was it John O'Carroll or whoever, Scott Cardle, guys like that, when he was knocking out those lightweights, it was mostly like English level fighters, like low domestic level, not British level. He was fighting sort of area level guys, and yeah, when he was fighting those guys, his power was incredible. But moving up in weight and actually fighting better quality competition, he got found out. Wasn't as big a puncher as a lot of us thought. Prime for prime, Makabu versus Hay. I would go with Hay by knockout. I think he's too athletic for Makabu. He's too big. From the outside, Hay would be able to jump in with a big shot, and he'd probably do the same thing to Makabu that Bellew did. I think he knocks him out early. Makabu's only chance would be to get inside and rough him up, kind of like Fragomeni did to Hay. But I don't think he's quite as overly aggressive or as physically fit as Fragomeni was. So I think Hay probably knocks him out early. Ritson should have learned a style similar to Ricky Burns. Don't think he can learn any footwork. Now, yeah, I agree. Ritson should have been a guy who was a bit more tactful, learned better boxing fundamentals, but he was trying to be like Golovkin. That's the problem. He fell in love with his power and he never developed the kind of boxing IQ or boxing fundamentals that you need. I know Ricky Burns is a good example you bring up there because he's a guy who learned from very early on in his career that he wasn't that big a puncher because he fought tough, durable journeymen. So he realized he was going to have to prepare for a hard 12 rounds for every major fight. So, yeah, that's definitely a good comparison. And it's something that Lewis Ritson really should have done. But it's probably too late now. He's taken too many beatings. I mean, that Ponce guy that he fought, the Argentinian guy that he fought, he destroyed him. So yeah, I think that Lewis Ritson's probably on his way out now. Fantasy matchup: AJ versus Valuev. I go with AJ on points, but I think Valuev would make him survive a real scare later in the fight because Valuev actually had pretty good stamina for such a big guy, and he had a great chin too. So I don't think that AJ would stop him, but I think he'd outbox him win nearly every round. But I think in the last few rounds we would maybe see a late surge from Valuev, and he would start to make his size and his work rate count. And I think he would give AJ some problems and maybe stun him, maybe drop him late. But I don't think he beat him. I think AJ wins, but like I said, Valuev just catches up with him late and makes it closer. I think he's underrated. Yeah, I agree. He is. What's interesting is when Hay was fighting, he was a bit overrated. Like people thought he was like better than Mike Tyson and he would beat the Klitschko's and whatnot. But David Hay now, he's kind of seen as a bit of a joke, a bit of a laughing stock. But he was genuinely a big puncher, very athletic, very powerful, had explosive, shocking hand speed and explosive power. So yeah, David Hay is yeah, in a sense, he's definitely underrated. I agree with that, Lee. Have you seen the C of E are considering making God gender neutral in prayers? Oh man. Do you know what? Don't even get me started. That'll just piss me off, man. It really will. I don't need that kind of I don't need that kind of negativity, man. I really don't. But yeah, it's disgusting. Doesn't surprise me one bit. Because I mean, are they really the genuine church? I mean, do they really preach the true gospel? I doubt it, man. I really do. Yeah, Prime Hay Sparks, Prime Macabu, I think. Yeah, I agree. I agree, Mr. T. I do. Hay would beat Joshua by KO. I agree. I would pick Hay over Joshua. I'll tell you why I'll pick Hay. I think Hay's sudden power from long range would catch Joshua early when Joshua was still cold and not warmed up. And I don't think Joshua, being this big, slow, clunky guy, I don't think he would have the reflexes to react to it. And I don't think that Hay would allow him to recover. He kind of do what he did against Thomas Bonin. I think it would be a similar situation. Hay's sudden explosive power from long range would be a shock to the system. And AJ is pretty chinny and doesn't maybe have the best heart. So I think Hay would stop Joshua in the early rounds. I really do. It's a shame we never saw that fight. Like when Hay was still around, obviously when AJ was on the rise, that would have been a good fight, like an interesting fight for the early part of AJ's career. So we can see the sort of shot end of the road Hay versus the green, inexperienced prospect AJ. That would have been a great fight. Not sure who I would pick then. Probably AJ at that point though, but Prime Hay, I think would beat AJ. But it'd be a good fight. Stern versus Golovkin. I go with Golovkin by knockout, probably within 5 rounds. Terrible style matchup for Stern. Stern would cover up. Golovkin would hit him with hooks, uppercuts, round the guard to the body, through the guard up the middle, and he would just knock him out. I think. He'd do the same thing that Castillo did. He'd stop him early, I think. Do you think AJ will ever have a huge stadium fight again? Probably, because they could easily fill a stadium if they were to make AJ versus Wilder or AJ versus Dillian White too. They could easily do that. So I think he probably will have another big stadium fight. A lot of money to be made. AJ's still a big name. He's still a big draw. Thoughts on the fight 2 weeks ago? Navarrete versus Liam Wilson, Barbosa versus Pedraza, Cortez versus Melendez. I have to apologize. I didn't watch a single one of them. I mean, I would love to. That's a problem. Look, I really need to follow boxing more for this channel, but because I've had so much going on and I've not been staying up for fights, man. Like I don't have I haven't had the motivation for it. So I apologize. I definitely will get back on track soon. Has to be Prime Hay. Yeah, I agree. Prime Hay would win. I think within 5 rounds, probably. Yeah, probably would stop him within 5 rounds because I think he'd catch him fast and early, and I don't think he'd see it coming. I don't think he'd be able to recover quickly. AJ versus Fury could probably happen when they're shot to bits. Yeah, wouldn't surprise me one bit. Wouldn't surprise me one bit. Although to be perfectly honest, hey, AJ versus Fury, I think the establishment would have preferred that fight if it was for undisputed, because they would have wanted it to be they'd have wanted it to be some sort of big historic event, if you know what I mean. Like they would have wanted to be able to say this is the first time that the first time that two British guys have fought for the undisputed title and whatnot, and they would have wanted to make a big deal out of it. But if the fight happens now, it's still a big fight, but it doesn't have that same it doesn't have that same vibe to it, does it? So I think they should just go ahead and focus on the Usyk fight for now. And yeah, if I think with AJ, it would make more sense to make him versus Wilder or him versus Dillian White, because again, those are still big fights, and those are still fights that will make money. So yeah, but you never know. AJ versus Fury was a big fight at one point in time, wasn't it? So who knows? It might be sort of like a Kell Brook versus Amir Khan situation where Brook just smashes him, but and it's two guys who are shot. It could be a situation like that. Prime Hay would give Usyk problems. Yeah, I think Prime Hay would have a puncher's chance against Usyk, but I think Usyk is durable enough and fit enough and skilled enough, has more enough of a sort of size and enough body mechanics to be able to survive an onslaught and figure David Hay out. And I think Usyk would be able to outbox him and maybe stop him late because Hay had poor stamina and had a relatively shaky chin himself. No version of AJ beats Fury at his best. I agree. Prime for prime, I only give AJ a puncher's chance. I think Fury at his best would win, probably on points quite easily. Oscar Valdez versus Navarrete. How do you see that playing out? At this point in time, I would favor Navarrete. I've never been a big supporter of Oscar Valdez. Like, I've never really seen him as that good. I think he's got good power, but I think he's very clumsy, very limited. Whereas Navarrete, he's a guy who I think's a bit technically better. I know he apparently didn't look great in his last fight, but when he's on point, he's very good. So I would favor him to win. Probably on points. Fury should fight Ruiz next if he doesn't sign to fight Usyk. It's an okay fight on paper, but Ruiz would get absolutely schooled and dominated in that fight, in my opinion, because his feet are too slow. He's way too easy to hit. Doesn't have much head movement. He's not that big a puncher. He's not as fast as he used to be. He's got an eating disorder. He's morbidly obese. I think Fury'd school him. I really do. I'd love to see AJ versus Wilder in the summer. I'd back AJ too. Yeah, I think AJ could beat Wilder. I do. long as it's a real fight and he doesn't lay down like most of Wilder's opponents. Ruiz is far more dangerous than Prime Chisora, in my opinion. I disagree, actually. I think Prime Chisora is a bigger puncher than Ruiz. I think he's tougher. Ruiz might have better boxing skills, but Chisora's naturally bigger, naturally stronger, and I think he's more dangerous, you know? More people are picking Valdez over Navarrete than the Liam Wilson fight. Yeah, after the Liam Wilson fight. Yeah, Navarrete must have just had a bad performance, but prior to that, I've always rated Navarrete. I think he's a good fighter. Very big for the weight, and he's very tough. Nordic, would you consider starting a Patreon so you could talk about more controversial topics? I've thought about it. Believe me, I've thought about it. But the problem is, like, I have this thing about me where the thing with Patreon is it's a paid service, right? It's basically putting content behind a paywall, and I have a I have a problem with that, if you know what I mean. Like, I hate that the concept of asking people for money. It just eats away at me, if you know what I mean. It pisses me off. Like, I don't like I don't like the idea of making content and charging people for it. You know, I like my content to be free. I think since this is the internet, all information should be free, if you know what I mean. I think it makes sense for if you're a content creator and you enjoy what you're doing and you have a passion for it. I don't think it should be about the money, you know. So that's my thing with Patreon. I get that I could probably talk about more. You know, I could be a lot more open and honest about my views on here. I could be a lot more controversial on Patreon, but it would definitely have a much lower user interface. You know, it would have a lot less people watching, and I think the fact that you'd have to pay for it would seem like a bit of a cop out, if you know what I mean. But don't get me wrong, I have thought about it. I definitely have, and you never know. Maybe I will do it one day because then I can actually openly talk about a lot of things that I'd like to talk about. But you know, it's a slippery slope, and it I hate the whole monetization of content. You know, I think this is the internet, right? And the internet is to host information, and as far as I'm concerned, all information should be free. That's just how I see it. So yeah, that's my little rant over. But I have thought about it. I have thought about making a Patreon. Don't get me wrong. Will you be watching Jake Paul or Tommy Fury or versus Tommy Fury? No, no, I won't be watching that. I'm not interested in social media boxers unless it's myself, you know. Unless it's me fighting Jake Paul or Tommy Fury, then I'm not interested, you know. I'm not sure if Usyk stops Prime Hate. I think he would, but I also wouldn't be surprised if it went the distance, you know. But I think Usyk's work rate could be a major problem for Hay, who had a low gas tank, and when people put the pressure on Hay, he tended to fall apart if he couldn't knock him out early, you know. Interestingly, Hay actually did better against taller, heavier guys, whereas guys who are around about his height, who had better work rate than him and could apply pressure, he struggled with, you know. Look at fights like the Mormek fight or um the Fragamani fight, you know. Do you think Benavidez can compete at 175? Well, I mean, he's certainly big enough. The dude's massive for 168. I mean, the guy should really be fighting at cruiserweight. So, yeah, I've no doubt if he got in shape and he took the sport a bit more serious and laid off the flipping Charlie, you know, if he laid off the white stuff, then yeah, he might be able to compete at 175, maybe even cruiserweight. You know, thoughts on Harrison versus Zoo? I got Zoo in that fight, but I don't think Zoo would beat Charlo, but I think he'll beat Harrison. You know, 168 is Benavidez's ceiling, in my opinion. If he beats Plant, he can be a good champion at 168. If Bumnello vacates at 175, all the top five beat him. Yeah, I've got mixed feelings on Benavidez. I think he definitely needs to take the sport more seriously to be able to compete at 175. Yeah, I'm not usually into it. If I'm not doing anything, I'll watch it though, kinda intrigued. Yeah, personally, I'm not intrigued at all. I've got no interest in Jake Paul or Tommy Fury unless it's me in the ring giving them both a flipping haymaker, other than that, I'm not interested, but they'll never fight me, If Jake Paul would fight me, then I'll give him my time, but my time is precious, and I'm too important to waste time on a nobody like Jake Paul, unless he wants to step in the ring with me. Who do you rate more, Holyfield or Tyson? Holyfield, I think he's a better fighter by far. Not only did he beat Tyson on both occasions, but personally, I just think technically he was a lot better. Stylistically, he would get inside, he would outwork him, he would flipping. He took Tyson apart in both fights, and I think technically he was more proficient. And if truth be told, I think he had a bigger heart. I really do. Benavides has a weird body. He can have abs and look in good shape and look fat at the same time. Yeah, he's got that sort of skinny fat look about him, hasn't he? Kind of like Tony Bellew in a sense. Shout out to Johnny. Good to see you here, bro. God bless. Boxing is dead. Yeah, it certainly is, Johnny. Like, I'm so sick and tired of boxing that I've not even been following it lately, Johnny. And I've been thinking of getting into making new content for the channel, but it only comes down to my retrospective content because modern day boxing it just doesn't interest me if truth be told, man. Thoughts on Figueroa versus Maxio? That's an interesting fight. Maxio, of course, he lost to Vargas, didn't he, in his last one, but it was close. And yeah, he was able to beat Gary Russell. So he's a tough guy, but technically very limited. So Figueroa is technically a better fighter, and I think he probably beat him on points. Nordic versus Hatman at York Hall, YouTube boxing card, yeah. Although Hatman's like 50 years old or something, and he's flipping morbidly obese, so yeah, I'd be surprised if Hatman was even able to flipping walk down the stairs and climb into the ring. If Hatman could climb into the ring and actually get in there with me, then that to him is a victory. Never mind winning the fight. Actually getting into the ring and getting his shorts on would be a victory for him. Shout out to Louis, by the way. God bless you. Good to see you here. It's been dead since Ring versus Gonzalez won. Yeah, it's been terrible, man. The sport has. Fury's running from Usyk. Haney's running from Loma. The WBC want tranny fights instead of Bivol Beterbiev. Yeah. Yeah, the WBC want gender-neutral boxing, innit? We'll stick flipping Alicia Baumgardner, whatever her name is. Stick her in the ring with Kudryashov or someone. I'd watch that. Yeah, do you know what they should do? They should put Katie Taylor in the ring with like Lawrence Okolie or someone. Let's see gender neutral, weight neutral boxing, Let's see it. I'm jaded with boxing at times too. Yeah, same with me, Shane. Same with me. I absolutely am. Damn Nordic, you keep picking the underdogs. It just depends. I don't always pick the underdog. Sometimes I just go for whoever I think's the more technically proficient guy, And again, because I've not been following boxing that much, sometimes it's just gut feeling. I haven't really had a lot of time to sit and fully analyze these fights. Maybe my opinion would change if I had. Hatman would have to be juiced to the gills, yeah. Juiced up to his tits, He'd have to be in it just to get his shorts on and climb into the ring. I think at both their peaks, Holyfield would have stopped Tyson. Yeah, I agree. I mean, look at what Holyfield did to Buster Douglas after he beat Tyson. But Tyson fanboys have always got an excuse for why he loses. It's never because the opponent was better, there's always something else. It's cool. Figueroa can win. You're right. Yeah, I think Figueroa's got good boxing skills. A lot of people thought he beat that Fulton fighter, didn't they? Alicia Baumgardner looks like 78 Sports TV's abused Pitbull. but men who thirst for cleavage shots online swear she's beautiful. It looks like she looks like a guy to me, man. Like all these women fighters look like guys. I mean, you could put Chris Arreola in a wig and he would look like some of these female boxers. You know, you really could. You could take Nikolai Valuev and put him in a dress and a bikini and give him a wig and just stick him in the weigh-in. I'll be like, hey, look, it's Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano and and Clarence Shields and Alicia Baumgardner. You know, try to think of any more. And all the simps that sit watching that. I don't know how you can simp for ugliest chicks ever. You know, I mean, I'd understand if it's like some ultimate waifu. You know, some girl who's like um pale white, you know, like Snow White, and she's got like a bit of nice body fat on her, and you know, nice big titties and whatnot, and you know, she's got sort of that pretty just that waifu look about her. I understand maybe simping for someone like that, but you look at these flipping big roided up six-pack having flipping mulatto ugly bastards like flipping Baumgardner and that other one, whatever her name is, and you know, Clarence Shields, who just looks like the fucking Predator. You know, she looks like Charles Martin wearing a flipping boob tube or something. And and you got guys literally flipping sitting there with their dicks out, defending them on the internet. These simps, man, it's pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. I mean, Gina Carano doesn't look bad, but the rest of them look like a bunch of flipping men on, or they look like a bunch of men in drag to me, you know. Know that you need to make a roast video on Andrade. I already did. I made a video. It was called Andrade, the biggest embarrassment in boxing. Check it out if you didn't see it. My Kang is chocolate, Michaela Meyer. Yeah, we was Kangs and shit. We was inventors and shit. We was Braveheart and shit. Andrade could compete in women's boxing because he fights like a girl, you know. He hits like a girl. Stick him in the ring with Baumgardner, and we'll see which one of them hits harder, you know. All Andrade needs to do is say, "Look, I identify as a woman boxer," and they can stick him in the ring with Baumgardner. Why not? And then he can sing "Strong Woman, Strong Woman." The descendants of King Tut who don't even know who their fathers are, Johnny. Nordic, I saw your Andre Ward vid again, and it's great. He laced and elbowed his way to beat Kessler into submission. Yeah, I mean, from the opening round of that fight, he was like jab, grab, run, duck below the waist, elbow, headbutt. It was pathetic, man. Just cheated his way to the win, and the Beaker fight was even worse, believe it or not. Charles Martin walks this earth like a god, yeah. He crawls this canvas like a bum. That's what he does. I mean, Charles Martin, like he shouldn't have said those things because he wasn't a bad fighter, but like he turned himself into an absolute meme. That's what he did, you know, with that stupid comment about walking this earth like a god, and then for him to just get smashed like that in 2 rounds. He became an Audley Harrison type meme, you know. It's my destiny when I land my left hand. Shakur and Haney should be in the women's boxing. To be honest, with the and what way, yeah, the way those pussies fight, yeah, the way those 2 pussies fight, yeah, they should be absolute flipping bitches. Shakur and Haney are like they're like those little chavs you see on the street. You know when you're walking about and you see some little flipping black chav walking about and he'll like throw something at you or he'll say something. He'll be like, "Yeah, what? You what?" And then you'll like look at them or you'll walk towards them and they'll shit themselves and run away and cry for their mothers. I'd say cry for their fathers, but most of them don't have fathers, you know. Most of them joggers. So yeah, that's the vibe I get when I look at them guys. When I look at Haney and Shakur, they're like little kids on the street, little chavs that walk around like shouting at the elderly and starting on little kids and shit. That's what they remind me of. Little bitches. Like if I ever saw Shakur Stevenson in the street, I could literally just bitch slap that guy and he'd probably cry. I don't give a shit if he's a pro boxer. The guy's like flipping 8 stone. I literally just bitch slap him. He'd run away crying. Thoughts on Alexis Rocha versus Crawford? I don't think I've ever watched Alexis Rocha fight, but yeah, Crawford scraping the bottom of the barrel into for opponents, man. I mean, that Evanesian fight was a cherry pick. Skeletons don't lie. Never mind the face or body these so-called women have. Women boxers have male skeletons. Yeah, a lot of them do, you know. A lot of them have the Adam's apple. They've got the big traps. And it makes you wonder, doesn't it? Is there some gender bending going on here? If anyone ever says they're entertained by Devin, Shakur or Devin, they're lying to themselves. Yeah, absolutely. I don't believe for 1 second anybody has sat through a Devin Haney fight and enjoyed it, or a Shakur Stevenson fight and appreciated any sort of art or any sort of action from it, because they're just so fucking boring that there's like literally nothing. Like, what is there to go on? It's just slap, run, slap, hold, headbutt, hit behind the head, slap, complain to the referee, slap, run, duck below the waist, slap, run. That's what those fights are. I mean, there's bugger all to them. It's just the most boring, most repetitive crap you ever see. It's rubbish, man. It really is. And I just like you say. I mean, anybody who claims that they enjoy that, I'm skeptical about it. You know, I really am. I just don't believe it for a second. It reminds me of, it's like the people who say that they enjoy women's boxing. Again, I'm skeptical about that. Like, I think to myself, do they really enjoy women's boxing, or are they just trying to fit in? Are they trying to get themselves some sort of press access, if you know what I mean? That's the vibe it gives me. If anyone ever, yeah, Audley Harrison is the biggest bum in boxing. Tyson Fury, yeah, I remember when he said that, and then he's like, "Yeah, tell your gay lover Tony Bellew I'm gonna do him," and all that. That was quite funny. That was the old Tyson Fury when he was a little bit based, you know. Before he was talking about his best friend giving him a hand job and, you know, wanting to sodomize his opponents. You know, that was the old Tyson Fury before he became a complete degenerate. You know, would you beat Sonny Edwards on the streets? On the streets, definitely, definitely. But if it was a boxing match, I think I could beat him, but I'd have to cheat a bit. You know, I'd probably have to lean on him and use my weight and stuff. But if it was on the street, I could literally give him free 10 punches. Sorry, 10 free shots. I could give him 3 punches, laugh in his face. I wouldn't even need to throw a punch. You know, I put his face in the dirt. You know, just grab him and hold him down, and he'd be like, trying to hit me, and I'll be like, "Oh, what's the matter, little boy?" And then I'd probably feel bad if I actually hit Sonny Edwards on the streets. You know, so I'd have to take it easy on him. I would. So yeah. To answer your question, yeah, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Who remembers when Michael Sprott flattened Audley Harrison? That was brutal. See that left hook that Michael Sprott landed, and Audley Harrison just fell flat on his face. Like, if you guys haven't seen that, I recommend you watch it. That was brutal. And what's interesting is the rematch was equally as brutal. Like, where Harrison got his revenge, like that big overhand left that Harrison landed on Sprott's chin or that big left hook was brutal, man. And it was one of them punches where as soon as it landed, you knew the fight was over. And he was actually losing the fight, and he was in the last round, and he pulled that punch out of nowhere. So that was probably Harrison's best performance, Audley Harrison. You know, that left hand he landed on Michael Sprott was it was the best punch of his career, and that was what got him the David Haye fight. Interestingly, Shakur is fun if you actually understand the technical stuff he does. His distance management is perfect. Not to me. Look, I've been watching boxing a long time, and all I see from Shakur is run, hold, slap, spoil, foul, hit below the waist, hit below the belt. He's boring, man. I can't enjoy that. I'm too much of a boxing purist to enjoy that. Now Shakur's boring, punches like a fourth grader. Yeah, yeah, he punches like a kid or a girl. I don't. Yeah, he's a complete clown, man. To be fair though, the average dinner lady would flatten Audley Harrison. Yeah, yeah, Audley Harrison was useless, man. But that left hand though, it could destroy the Horcruxes. It could destroy the One Ring. Back in a minute, guys. Go to the toilet. Okay, where was I? Let me see. To be fair, Chaw would flatten Fraudley Harrison. Yeah, he probably would. Giga Chaw probably would knock out Audley. Wouldn't surprise me one bit. Every professional hockey player would beat Shakur Stevenson ass in a street fight. I can't stand where people suck these clowns off for owning boxing gloves and fight a can once a year. Yeah. I mean, like you say, I mean, Shakur Stevenson, if he were to fight like a genuine, like big, strong, tough guy on the streets, he's gonna get his ass kicked, man. But obviously in the ring, he's able to have a referee that protects him and lets him do whatever he wants while warning the opponent, for minor infringements. Charles Martin's brother Clarence Shields versus Audley Harrison fantasy fight. Clarence could probably beat Audley Harrison because Audley probably shit his pants, and he could get stopped. Shakur's fights are all sparring sessions. If you want to see distance management, watch Vladimir Klitschko. Yeah, Vladimir had some of the best distance control, long range boxing, lead hand control I've ever seen at his prime. Man, you got to announce your lives earlier. Yeah, yeah, you're right. I kind of did announce this one a little bit too near to the time I was starting. I was kind of amped up, and I wanted to get it going. If earlier in the stream I was having internet connection problems. My internet cut off for some reason, and yeah, I don't know what was going on, man. But yeah, like I was saying, Vladimir Klitschko in his prime had the best lead hand control and probably the best long range boxing that I think I've ever seen. Yeah, he was fantastic. He was underrated. Remember Hay and Chisora clashed at a press conference? Yeah, you glassed me. He glassed me. He fucking glassed me. I'm going to show him. I'm going to physically show David Hay. That was too funny. That was, wasn't it? Hay ends up hitting flipping Adam Booth with a tripod and cutting his head, and Chisora gets like arrested and stuff. That was funny. It was. What do you know about Orlando Canizales from Loretto, Texas? Canizales and Loma. in my opinion, have a similar boxing style. I don't know who Canizales is. I've never watched him, but I'll definitely look into him and I'll form an opinion based on what I see. Vargas and Foster look positively geriatric on the fight poster. It's a good symbol for the state of boxing, isn't it, man? Just boxing is so old and jaded at this point, isn't it? Would you watch Sergio versus Triple G? FYI, Sergio is back. Do you see the fight getting made? I doubt it myself. I see Triple G versus Lara next. If the fight happens now, Sergio gets utterly destroyed. If it happens now, he's so far past his prime. He's had so many injuries. He's in his late 40s, and yeah, he wouldn't stand a chance. Say what you want about Triple G. I mean, he's in his 40s too, and he's past his prime, but he's still got a good chin. He's still got great stamina. So I think he wins it easily. Prime for prime, I still think Triple G wins. I think he breaks Sergio down and stops him. Sergio was a bit overrated, but he was entertaining. Fundamentally, he was very flawed, though. Triple G versus Lara, same situation. I think Triple G walks him down and probably stops him. Vladimir is probably one of the most underrated fighters ever. Most underrated is Sven Ottke. Is literally no one rates the guy apart from a few hardcores. Yeah, I agree. You'll get no argument from me on that. Sven Ottke is definitely, in my opinion, the most underrated because, like you say, he's considered a complete fraud and a complete bum, whereas in my opinion, he was one of the best fighters ever. You probably talked about this, but do you think Fury versus Usyk will happen? I think there are other things going on than just money issues, just a gut feeling. Yeah, I did talk about this earlier, and I just think that Fury wants to drag it out as much as possible. He wants to try and get himself the best deal financially. And, he just wants to make sure that everything favors him going into the fight. So I don't see where else he's going to go. I mean, is he going to fight flipping Ruiz? Is he going to fight Joe Joyce? I mean, what's the point? I think there's nowhere else to go, really. So I think the fight will probably happen. Yeah, Sergio's like 47 now. Apparently, he's still fighting, though. Yeah, he won't be fighting at a very high level. I definitely don't see him fighting at world level. Inoue will knock Stephen Fulton's rib cage out of his back. Yeah, and you know what's going to happen as soon as Inoue knocks that boy out. All the all the BLM flipping thug channels will pretend that guy never existed. All the joggers who have recently jumped onto Stephen Fulton's nutcase because he's a black guy who's got a title and who's fighting in a big fight. But as soon as Stephen Fulton loses, they'll forget all about him and they'll throw him on the pile with the rest of the hype jobs like Rigondeaux and Nicholas Walters and whatnot. Hatman hates Vlad. Honestly, every chance he gets, he disses Vlad out of nowhere. Yeah, he hates him with a passion. He's always hated him. He used to go on mental breakdowns after Vladimir would win fights, which is why you can tell that when AJ beat Vladimir, when Fury beat Vladimir, like when AJ won that fight, you can tell that was like the happiest day of Hatman's life. He would have been so happy about that. Yeah, still not announced the date yet for the fight, Johnny. Yeah, they haven't, no date. But I think they will. I think they will at some point. Joe Calzaghe is underrated too. A lot of people think Froch is better. Laughable. Anybody who thinks Froch is better, they need the men in white coats. They should check themselves into the nearest psychiatric care center because they have a particular kind of delusional retardation, and they're definitely no good for society. You've got to be careful of those people. Vlad is one of the greatest heavyweights ever. Yeah, I agree. He certainly is. He might be the greatest in his prime, as far as I'm concerned. You're right, though. Inoue will win. Fulton doesn't have the power to give Inoue respect. Yeah. And as soon as he loses, they'll forget all about him. We'll never hear about Fulton at any sort of serious level again after that fight if he loses. He'll be just like Gary Russell and those other guys I mentioned, like Walters and Rigondeaux. Fury may be dragging it out, may just be dragging it out, but apparently Saudi is off now. I can't imagine they'll be getting more money over here. Yeah, they won't get as much money, but they will probably get more box office. There'll be more money to be made at the gate, particularly. They won't get as much, obviously, for a site fee or whatever, but they'll make a lot of money at the gate because if they have that fight in Wembley or in Tottenham or whatever, that'll be a big stadium event, and it'll be a big historic event. I don't see where else they'll go, to be honest. Fulton is overrated, but he has the style to beat Inoue, but not the power. We'll see. I think Inoue will beat him up and probably stop him or win wide decision. That's if Fulton comes to fight. You never know, he might just come to run and Saboil, and survive. That's the one thing. That's the one fight I do think will happen. Inoue Fulton, because little guys and nobody. It's little guys and nobody gives him credit like welterweights and heavyweight divas. Yeah, they don't have much money to be made elsewhere. Stephen Fulton's never going to be a big name. So, yeah, where else is he going to go? Where else is he going to make that kind of money? So, yeah, I think Fulton and Inoue will probably work. Fulton will get the Rigo treatment. Yeah, they'll throw him on the pile with the rest of the black hype jobs. That's what they'll do. Feel like Fury is dodging. It's clear Usyk wants it. Yeah, Usyk can fight anybody. And I don't think Fury will dodge it for long. I think he just wants to make sure that he gets all the A-side privileges and more money. But, yeah, there's no... what am I trying to say? There's nowhere else for him to go. Who else is he going to fight, Is he going to fight Joe Joyce? Is he going to fight Hrgovic? I mean, who's he going to fight, Plant versus Benavidez thoughts. Yeah, I talked about that earlier. Well, I think I did think Benavidez would stop Plant, but the closer the fight gets, the more chance I give Plant of making it the distance and making it close. And I think probably the most likely outcome is Benavidez on points, but I could see either guy winning. I think it's going to be a close and competitive fight either way, Andrade is a good-looking fighter. By good-looking, do you mean he looks good, as in he's good fighter, or do you mean he's like handsome or whatever? I don't know. Because I wouldn't know, because I don't take it up the ass, Yeah, it would do great ticket sales. Would probably benefit Fury politically if it's at Wembley too. Yeah, definitely. In the UK, they could have British officials. Frank Warren would have a lot of power. They'll try and fix it for Fury. That's what they'll probably do. What unpopular fighters do you support? Well, one fighter who's generally unpopular that a lot of people don't like, who I support, is Josh Warrington, because I think Josh Warrington is a guy who's supremely talented and supremely skilled, but he's a guy who doesn't do himself any favors. He fights like an idiot. He fouls when he doesn't need to, and he's a guy who I think could be so much better than he is, But yeah, to answer your question, someone like Josh Warrington. I don't see Plant beating Benavidez, maybe by decision. That's if he can make it 12 rounds. I think Benavidez by decision in a very close fight, I think is the most likely outcome. If anybody gets stopped, I think it's Plant. I think Benavidez is the bigger puncher and he's got better stamina, Most people have Benavidez by knockout. Yeah, most people do. And I think that Canelo fight and the Gattiga fights are on people's minds, Some idiot told me on Twitter that Inoue has never fought a black fighter before, so he will lose because there's no Americans at the lower weights. Then said Fulton isn't a top black American fighter. Well, it just sums up the arrogance of these idiot black Americans. They're some of the most low IQ people you'll ever meet. That's one thing I've learned on the internet is a lot of these black Americans are literally some of the most retarded people I've ever come across. Like the arrogance of these people, they think that they are the best at everything, despite the fact that they're usually the worst at most sports, let's be honest. And when it comes to combat sports, particularly boxing and particularly the lower weight divisions, it's been generations of utter failure for those people. I mean, uh, where do I even need to where do I even go with that? Where do I even begin? Just pure arrogance. Inoue has fought some of the best fighters in the lower divisions. You know, he's become undisputed. He's an international champion that's fought all around the world. You know, what has Fulton done by comparison? What did someone like Gary Russell ever do by comparison? You know, it's I don't know. It's just the self-entitled, didn't do nothing. We was kings. We was inventors. Arrogance and black fragility. That's all it is, man. Some of the most insecure people on the planet is what it is. Anybody gets offended by that, you can do one. You know. Fulton isn't going to Japan. This is all talk. Heyman won't let it happen. Well, yeah, the black Americans. That's another thing. Very rarely do they travel, even when they're not the A side. You know, because again, gives me that we didn't do nothing. We want everything for no work. You know, typical of their people. You know, very typical. Don't be surprised if Benavidez gets stopped. His defense is leaky. Benavidez has been dropped, so I'm pretty sure he was dropped by Ronald Gavril. So yeah, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me one bit. But I think the most likely outcome is he wins if he takes the fight seriously. You know. Josh Warrington for me too. The guy's very underrated. I agree. I really rate Josh Warrington, and I think if he had a different trainer and he was a bit more focused on improving his technique rather than being a macho tough guy, then I think he could be a world class fighter, maybe even a pound for pound level fighter. You know, because he is a great fighter, all things considered. You know, he's done great so far. Who's your favorite minimum weight fighter currently and of all time? I don't know much about the minimum weight division. It's one of them divisions that I haven't paid much attention to, you know. Although I do think didn't Chocolatito fight there? If he did, then it's probably him. You don't think Josh Warrington uses the same tactics, headbutts, wrestling, hit the back? Yeah, he does, and that's what I mentioned earlier in the stream. Like Josh Warrington fights like an idiot, and I don't know why he does it. But he's got the technique and the talent to be a great fighter. But for whatever reason, in his last few fights, he's been fighting like a scumbag. You know, like he's trying to be Andre Ward or something, fighting like an absolute idiot, and I don't know why. Fulton spoils, that has nothing to keep Inoue off him. Yeah, that's pretty much the way I see it. He's not a puncher, not particularly skilled. Inoue is a puncher and is particularly skilled. You know, Inoue should win it, but we'll see. We'll see if home advantage plays a part in the fight also. If Plant can hurt Benavidez, I think he wins. If not, it's going to be difficult for him, yeah. Because if Benavidez gains confidence and starts to walk Plant down, then that's a bad look for Plant because he's never had the best chin or the best stamina. Most overrated fighters of all time: Floyd Mayweather, Muhammad Ali, Joe Louis, Jack Johnson. Who else? Let me think. Andre Ward. You know, a lot of overrated fighters. You know, Carl Froch, Wilder, Deontay Wilder. You know, all overrated frauds in my opinion. You're the man, Nordic. Thanks, Eddie. I appreciate it. God bless you. Good to see you here, man. Billy Hardy versus Orlando Canizales, 1991. Check it out. Later from El Paso, Texas. Yeah, I'll check that out, man. God bless you. Shout out to El Paso, Texas. I love Texas, man. Texas is based. Most overrated are all black Americans. I'll go Ali, Mike Tyson, and Jack Johnson for our top three. Yeah. Yeah, definitely Jack Johnson. He was complete shit, complete fraud, a bum, overrated hype job. Probably never had a real fight. Fulton holding two belts is what makes him different from anyone else on Inoue's resume. Yeah, definitely there is that. It's a big fight in that regard. You know, he's moving up to fight a double champion, which I don't think he's ever done before. So yeah, that is a big fight. You know, but I wouldn't necessarily say that he's proven himself as the best opponent. He's just probably the most accomplished in that regard, you know. But of course, Nonito Donaire was a legend of the sport, so he was better. Paul Butler was a former champion, probably more proven at that level. So yeah, Inoue's fought world class fighters already. You know, I don't think he has anything to worry about. It's not an easy fight, but it's a fight he can win. He could win it. What happened to Scott Fitzgerald? Is he still fighting? He should have took off after his win against Fowler a few years back. I think he retired, and I think he was having problems with drugs and violence out of the ring. Like the guy had mental health problems, from what I hear, and it kind of ruined his career. And I think he's retired, if I'm not mistaken, but I'm not 100% sure about that. But yeah, his performance was great against Anthony Fowler. That was a great performance from him. Any underrated fights you'd recommend to watch? There's a few actually. One fight that's probably my favorite fight ever because of just the sheer brutality of it is probably the first Thomas Adamek versus Steve Cunningham fight. If you've never seen that, Shane, I recommend you watch it. It's amazing. Also, the Alexander Povetkin versus Marco Huck fight was a great one. Fantastic fight. Denis Lebedev versus Guillermo Jones was another great one. When I think of more, try Ricky Hatton versus Eamon McGee. That was a great fight. That was fantastic. Yeah, there's a lot of good fights, man. A lot of really good ones I can think of. Those are just a few that come to mind, you know. Good to see you here, Daz. God bless you, man. Every time. Evening, hope we're good. Nonito Donaire was quality. Oh yeah, Nonito Donaire is a legend, man. Legend of the game. And yeah, he was definitely the best fighter that Inoue has beaten in terms of accomplishments and skill. Tell you who's a massive member of the Respect Club, Kiko Martinez. What a legend Martinez is. Oh yeah, Martinez has been around for years, man. And the fact that that guy is still going strong, still fighting at like borderline world level, and is still able to give these guys a tough fight and be a tough trial horse after like 20 years of the game, you know, I really respect Martinez. I really do. And the fact he was able to beat Kid Galahad and knock him out at that stage of their careers was really, really impressive. I mean, that's literally Galahad at his prime versus a massively shot to pieces Kiko, and he was still able to win it. So yeah, Martinez, he's just one of these guys who, if you know what I mean, he's aged very well. He's kept himself in great shape. He's stayed motivated. Always comes to win. Always comes to fight. Never gives up. Isn't interested in protecting a flashy record or just making money. Like the guy wants fights, and you can tell he's a real student of the game, and he's always learning, always improving his skills, and just a true warrior, a true fighter. You know, real fighting man, real legend of the game. I really respect him. Mickey Ward versus Emmanuel Augustus. Yeah, great fight. Macklin versus Moore again, classic fight that one, pure brawl. Thoughts on the Garcia versus Tank drama? Looks like the fight negotiation has stalled. Networks is fighting over the rematch clause. Martinez fighting in Japan. IBF eliminator. Yeah, Tank versus Garcia. I don't think that fight will happen. I think both of those guys are bums. I think they're hype jobs who have had fake fights their whole careers. If it's a real fight, I think Garcia wins. But all of Tank's fights so far have been fixed, in my opinion. All his title fights, anyway. Martinez fighting in Japan. IBF eliminator. Glad to see you back with the boxing. Yeah, good to see you here, Tom. God bless. It's good to be back. That's another one. Alex Arthur versus Michael Gomez. Good shout, Lee. Great fight. I'll tell you what was an even better Alex Arthur fight. Speaking of him, have you ever seen Alex Arthur versus Steve Foster Jr.? Check that fight out. That's an even better fight. Alex Arthur versus Steve Foster Jr. That was one of my that's one of my favorite domestic fights in the UK. Great fight. Know that you should check out minimum weight more. Good fighters coming up from Japan. Yeah, the Japs tend to like dominate the some of the lower weights, don't they? Like the Japanese are like real tough. You know, obviously guys like Inoue and whatnot, real bruisers. But yeah, I'll definitely need to check out minimum weight. I think because it's so low and the guys are so small, it gets like little to no promotion, if you know what I mean. But I would like to check it out a bit more, you know. And yeah, the Japanese tend to run some of those lower divisions. I think nobody here is surprised that that fight never happened. Yeah, me neither. I never thought it was going to happen, man. I really didn't. Just two hype jobs that don't want to fight, you know. Omar Shaker versus Scott Pemberton. Two great brawls. Yeah, I'll tell you another one with Omar Shaker. Check out his fight with Glenn Johnson. That was a great fight, man. Great fight. Yeah, yeah. I'm not surprised either, Stephen. Doesn't surprise me one bit. Tank is a hype job who's had a bunch of fixed fights, and Ryan Garcia is a pretty boy who doesn't even like to fight, you know. Should retire from the sport as far as I'm concerned. I think the pair of them should. Another great fight to watch was Choi. I'm not even gonna try to pronounce that guy's name, sorry. Versus the Mongolian guy who took Derry Matthews. Clean record off him, never in a bad fight. Yeah, I'll need to check his fights out actually. Sounds good. Do you think Plant has a realistic chance? Yeah, he has a good chance. I think his best chance is to kind of make Benavides a little bit overly aggressive and try and give away some ground in the early rounds and get him to walk onto counter shots. You know, because Benavides is a bit emotionally erratic, and he's a guy who is a little bit immature. You know, so you know. Plant could definitely win that fight, but I still favour Benavides. I think he's the more talented of the two, the better physicality of the two, and whatnot. So I think he probably wins it on points, but it's a close fight and a competitive fight. Boxing promotions are starting to promote 108 more. 105 getting no love though. Yeah, yeah. The lower divisions have always been kind of ignored by the mainstream boxing media. And look, I'm guilty of this myself. You know, as I was talking about earlier, I don't really pay attention to a lot of them divisions. Like I don't pay attention to minimum weight at all, and I really should. You know, because there's probably some great fights there and some great fighters. You know. Berto versus Ortiz, yeah, the first fight. The second fight was kind of lame, but the first fight was great. The first Berto versus Ortiz fight, where both guys got dropped a couple times. That was a great fight. Try to think of more fights, man. Like underrated ones. Because there's a lot of fights. Like I say, my favourite is still probably the Adamek Cunningham first fight. That was amazing. And yeah, like I said, that Arthur versus Foster fight was amazing too. Warrington versus Frampton, Wood versus Conlon, recent times. Yeah, Wood versus Conlon was amazing. I think that was fight of the year last year, as far as I'm concerned. Warrington versus Frampton was a bit one sided, I think, but it was a great fight to watch, but it was one sided. You know, Warrington completely schooled Frampton. F.A. Apoche versus Brandon Glanton is underrated. I've never seen it. Shout out to Yard Knight. Good to see you here, man. God bless. I rewatched the Cunningham Adamet one recently. Very good. Yeah, yeah. I love that fight, man. Hatton versus Thaxton was an epic scrap. Bit of a bloodbath as well. Yeah, Hatton nearly got stopped. See, because of the cut that Hatton received in that fight, I think the referee and the corner were very close to stopping it, but they allowed him to go ahead and he won the fight. That was a great fight. John Thaxton was one of them like real tough, high British level fighters, domestic level guys, and he gave Hatton one of his toughest fights at that stage of his career. Marquez versus Diaz, another great shout. Also, Marquez versus Katsidas, another great fight. Groves versus De Gale. Yeah, that was a very competitive fight. That was a more of like a real good technical fight, between two high level technicians. I enjoyed that fight. Garcia versus Dorticos, another great fight, man, with a brutal knockout. Do you think Tio can turn around his career? If you were his manager, how would you go about it? Well, I think that Sandor Martin fight was fixed. Sandor Martin dropped him with like the weakest shot I've ever seen, and the weakest shot I've ever seen drop a guy, and he took it easy on him. So unless they start really scripting every single one of Tio's fights, I don't see him going anywhere at world level unless they just cherry pick, you know. Omar Sheikha probably beat Jeff Lacey before Calzaghe did it. Yeah, that was a very close fight. Sheikha hurt Lacey quite badly, but Lacey was able to get through it and he gave him problems. It was a very close fight, competitive fight. Catch as the walking punching bag, yeah. Block punches with his face. Thaxton made his name by knocking Paul Scrap Iron Ryan into the middle of next week with a brutal KO on a Sky show. Ryan had been in an epic with some Spanish guy the fight before. Yeah. Yeah, he was good. He was a good domestic level guy. Usyk versus Briedis, fantastic fight. That was my favorite fight of 2018, I think it was. That was a great fight. Thoughts on Franklin versus Joshua? I think Franklin's a tough guy, and he's a guy with a good chin, and he's a guy who comes to fight. But he's overmatched against AJ. It's the type of fight where AJ could be tested, but I very much struggle to see him losing. I think for the most part, it's going to be just a measuring stick to see if AJ still has his confidence and if he can still fight a hard fight, you know. But I think he wins it. Burton versus Buglioni, another great fight. Abraham and Stieglitz, yeah, they had 3 great fights. Every single one of them fights, except the 4th, like you say, was an epic. Like if you guys have never seen the Arthur Abraham versus Robert Stieglitz fights, watch the trilogy. I've got them on one of my other channels, my Nordic Fights channel. I've uploaded them there. If you guys wanna watch them, those are great fights, man. And yeah, the 4th fight, both guys were shot to pieces, but the first 3 fights were great fights, man. Especially the first one, that was incredible. See, that's the most fun I have with boxing is thinking about the good old days, you know, talking about old fights because recent days, you know, modern boxing just depresses me. I'm not a fan of it. I'm really not. I like talking about old stuff, you know. Amazing when Calzaghe fought Lacey, they were building Lacey up as the 168-pound Mike Tyson or something. He was more like 168-pound Deontay Wilder. Power and very little else. Club fighter level skills, yeah. I think what it was Lacey knocked out Robin Reed while Robin Reed was past his prime and you know, he was the IBO champion, but he was on the slide. And I think because he beat Robin Reed in much better fashion than Calzaghe did, a lot of people thought that he was too much for that version of Calzaghe, who was in his 30s and was slowing down a bit. So a lot of people thought that the timing was right for Lacey, and obviously that turned out not to be the case. He got completely schooled and dominated, and that was one of Calzaghe's best performances. Some great fights in Germany back in the day. Yeah, Germany had great fights, man. Like Lee's mentioning now, Huck versus Povetkin, and also the Abraham Stieglitz fights, man. There were so many great fights in Germany. I didn't even know there was a show on tonight. Yeah, I just found out myself before I streamed, before I started it. Robin Reed was old and not taking the game seriously anymore when he fought Lacey. He didn't have the same hunger for it anymore. Yeah, he didn't have the same hunger for it. Yeah, I agree. But a lot of people thought that he was still dangerous because he had a title. He was the IBO champion going into that fight, and that kind of convinced a lot of people. Like just the way that he beat Reed convinced a lot of people that that version of Lacey was too much for Calzaghe. Obviously, it turned out not to be the case. Yeah, yeah. Some people did think that Huck beat Povetkin. Very close fight. Could have gone either way, in my opinion. Don't think Lacey would have lasted 12 rounds with Mikko Kessler back then. I don't know about that because one thing about Lacey, he did have a very good chin and he had a lot of heart. Like that's one thing I will say about Lacey. He had great heart, and he was a big puncher, but he wasn't that skilled. I think Kessler would have put a beating on him, and I think he would have beat him on points. But personally, I don't think Kessler would have stopped him. I think a wide decision victory for Kessler at that point in time. I think. But that's just how I see it. Who should Virgil Ortiz fight next? Well, apparently he's fighting Stanionis, is he not? Which is a good test. That's a great test for his career. Do you have the Veit versus Bramer 1 fight saved anywhere? I can't find that fight anywhere. I think I had that fight. If I remember rightly, it might be in my archive channel. Um, I've definitely got the second fight somewhere. I've seen that, but I seem to remember having the first fight. If I've got it, what I'll do is I'll upload it somewhere for you, and I'll send you a link. Right? I'll get back to you on that. If I don't, then I apologize. If I don't have it, I apologize. But I seem to remember having it somewhere. But I'll find out for you. I'll find out for you. Lacey had phenomenal punch resistance until that one beating. Kessler would have done the same thing Joe did and ruined him. Yeah, I agree. In my opinion, I agree. Kessler, he probably wouldn't have landed as many punches as Joe did, but he would have landed much harder punches, and I think he would have put a similar sort of beating on him. You know, it's cancelled as far as I'm aware. Are you talking about the Virgil Ortiz versus Stanionis fight? That's a shame. If that's cancelled, that would have been a great fight. Okay, cheers. I hate it when fights become lost. Same. I hate that. That's one of my pet hates with boxing is when the footage of these fights disappear. It pisses me off. Like I don't understand why the networks can't just archive these fights and upload them on YouTube. Like you've got Sky Sports on YouTube, right? You've got BT, you've got RAN, you've got flipping RT, whatever, like all these different flipping broadcasters that broadcasted boxing at one time or another. Surely they have recordings of these fights that they could upload for us to see, and they would get a lot of views doing it. So I don't understand it, man. To look them up in Chinese, yeah, because like there's some like dodgy Chinese websites have them in it. From the late 90s, I watched Woodall versus Bayer not so long ago. Proper game of two halves fight with a lot of drama. Bayer showed he had the minerals that night. Yeah, Bayer beat the crap out of Woodall. He dropped him a few times. Or was it two times or was it three times he dropped him? It was at least two times. And he schooled him in the first half. But he kind of ran out of gas in the last few rounds. And Woodall started to batter him in the last few rounds and finished the fight very strongly, had him holding for dear life. But yeah, Bayer showed a lot of heart that night, and he was able to tough his way through it and win the fight on points. Yeah, that was a great performance from him. I think that was a big upset too, because that fight was in Telford. It was in Richie Woodall's hometown, and the reason that fight was happening was because it was sort of a tune-up for a potential Woodall versus Calzaghe fight, because they were wanting to build up a unification fight between Woodall and Calzaghe, and yeah, Bayer ended up winning the title from Woodall, but they still went ahead and made the Calzaghe fight against Woodall anyway, and then I think Woodall retired afterwards. I think. Is Paul Smith underrated? Yeah, he's world level. Paul Smith is the greatest of all time. I'm kidding. Nah, he's overrated. They do it for recent fights, so I don't get why they can't do it with classics. Exactly. Like, surely Frank Warren or Eddie Hearn or whoever has like numerous archives and numerous recordings of these fights they could upload for us. Why not? It would make so much sense. Richie was down 3 times in the first 3 rounds of that fight. Fight was definitely in the UK. Telford Ice Rink sounds right. Yeah, yeah, and it was a big upset, I think. Triple G avoided Smith. Yeah, that was why Triple G wouldn't move up to super middleweight because Smigger was there. And let's not forget, Beterbiev and Kovalev, they weren't moving to super middleweight, were they? Not while Smith was there. Smigger was too dangerous for him, you know. Paul did beat Abraham in the first fight, though. Matthew Macklin, yeah. Did he? Did he? Did he? Fuck, man. Oh man. Yeah, I need to do a film study on that fight. Abraham won that fight very clearly, very clearly. Yeah, not a chance they'd go down there. Macklin beat Sturm. Yeah. Personally, I thought Sturm clearly won that fight. You know, he just landed the cleaner, more effective punches. And look at Macklin's face afterwards. He was like a rotten mango. He looked like Rihanna after she got beat up by Chris Brown. You know, if that really happened. Where's the Canelo show going next? And is his next opponent allowed to hit him asking for a friend? I don't know, man. It depends. They're actually talking about him fighting Beevil again next, believe it or not. And the only way he beats Beevil, the only chance is if it's literally a fixed fight and Beevil isn't allowed to hit him. So I suspect if that fight happens, then there'll be some skullduggery involving it, you know? Because no way could he ever beat Beevil in a real fight. No way. Canelo killed the super middleweight division. That's always been my favorite division too. Yeah, I like the super middleweight division. Yeah, it's a shame that it became the Canelo show. You know, it became a bunch of pathetic fixed fights, and it just became a joke, man. Like most of boxing nowadays, a complete joke. You know, Hearn saying it's Beevil pushing for the fight at 168. Beevil probably wants to be undisputed at 168. You know, it's a if he's able to make the weight comfortably, it's an easy 4 belts for him. But the problem is, will they accept that fight if Beevil's allowed to win? You know, will they accept that fight if he's actually allowed to throw punches at Canelo's head and beat him up? You know, will he be allowed to? Because the first fight, he definitely carried Canelo and took it easy on him. So I don't know, man. I'm skeptical about it. Smith, Saunders, Plant, Zerdo, and Benavidez could have had some good fights against each other, yeah. But sadly, they were all, or most of them were just chasing the Canelo payday, you know, the dive money. So it ruined the division as far as I'm concerned. But there could have been some great fights in the division. Good fights against like proper super middleweights who were world class. The super middle division has always been a good balance of action, volume, and power punching. Definitely one of my fave divisions. Yeah, same with me. I've been a big fan of that division for many years, you know. I can't see Beevil being allowed to do that. No. That's the thing, because Beevil's already beaten Canelo. So what does the zone or Matchroom or whoever have to gain from Beevil beating Canelo a second time? You know, surely they need to fix it. They need to make the story that Canelo, being the conquering hero, you know, was able to win back the rematch and win back the honor for his Mexican people or some BS like that. I don't know. They're gonna have to come up with something because surely they're not just gonna. It's not just gonna be the same result again. Surely. Some people are saying Yard is going to beat Zerdo if they fight. I just can't see it. I think Zerdo would school Yard. I don't rate Anthony Yard at all. And like I was saying earlier in the stream, I don't really think he has the body mechanics to be a world class fighter. I think he's a guy who's always going to have stamina problems. He's always going to struggle going a hard 12 rounds against a durable world class fighter. So I would definitely favor someone like Zurdo Ramirez. Like Gilberto Ramirez is a bit underrated, and I think he could beat him. Canelo, the greatest of all time, Ginger. I don't know, maybe that's George Groves. How's your Canelo song going? been on with some music recently and happy to contribute to music and yeah, and or words to it. Yeah, man. I've not really thought about that. I really need to get back to work. I need to write like a whole like proper script for that song. Canelo is a bum. Canelo is a bum. All of his fans are gay. Canelo is a bum. That's like the chorus of the song, isn't it? I need to find a way to start the song though. Yeah. Yeah, we had fun with that one. Like the meltdowns from the Canelo fanboys after that fight was great, wasn't it? I actually thought the Zerdo Beevil fight was fixed when I was watching it. Zerdo wasn't doing anything. Yeah, yeah. If truth be told, I was disappointed. I thought Zerdo had a good chance winning that fight, but don't get me wrong, Beevil was like punch accurate in that fight. Like it was a punch perfect performance, but Zerdo had opportunities, particularly late in the fight, where Beevil was starting to get a little bit reckless. He was starting to get a little bit overly ambitious. And I felt that Zerdo, being the bigger guy and the guy who, is a bit more awkward with his southpaw style and whatnot, I felt if he'd have just let his hands go, he would have had a good chance of making it competitive and maybe even winning. But I don't want to go as far as to say that fight was fixed. It could just be that Ramirez was, Ramirez could just lack confidence because he'd never fought at that level before. But it was a disappointing performance, and it would not at all surprise me if it was fixed. I have a funny feeling the recent war might have knocked something off of Yard's career. Yeah, well, I mean, let's not forget that Beterbiev fight and the Kovalev fight were both sustained beatings. Like he took a lot of punches in both of those fights and a lot of damage. So it wouldn't at all surprise me if he doesn't fight that much longer. If he retires after another few fights, or if he ends up sort of embracing journeyman status, because I can't see Anthony Yard with those physical flaws that he has and just the lack of amateur experience, the lack of stamina. I can't see him ever being a world class fighter, if truth be told. Ramirez apparently fighting Rosado. That's an okay fight for a comeback opponent, I guess. Ramirez will probably win easily, but I'm not going to complain about it. It's an okay fight. I watched a George Groves podcast on IFL last weekend. Very good. He has a base take on mental health too, or does he now? I've never thought of Groves as particularly based, but I'll need to look that up. Benavidez or Callum Smith? Benavidez is more talented, but Callum Smith is more consistent. And he's not blowing up in weight and getting snorting coke and shit. He's actually a guy who takes the sport seriously for the most part. So I'd probably favour Callum Smith. Yard is Broner Berto level at best. I agree. Yard is he's that level of fighter. Yeah, I don't think he has. Like I said earlier, I don't think he has the body mechanics or the stamina or the amateur experience to really go on and be a great fighter. Never thought so. Depression is a choice. Yeah, I guess so. I guess it is because you can choose to do something about it. I tell you one thing. Whenever I feel depressed, what I like to do, or what I immediately get the urge to do, is just go outside and have a walk, go to the park, or go to the woods, or maybe go up to Loch Lomond or something and jump into the cold water. And I tell you right now, if more people did that, there'd be no depression. The worst thing you can do for depression, in my experience, the worst thing you can do is sit on the internet and you know delve into negativity. The best thing you can do is go out and enjoy nature. Nature's like the perfect cure for depression, as far as I'm concerned. Shout out to Baseboxing Basement. Good to see you here, brother. Every time, my man Nordic. Sorry, late to the party. No problem, man. God bless you, man. Great to see you here. I take Callum Smith by KO. Benavidez is too wide open. Yeah, I think if Benavidez were to take his sports, if he were to take the sport a bit more seriously, stop blowing up in weight and stop getting high and shit. Like he could win that fight on points, but right now I think Callum Smith is more consistent, and I'd favor him for the win. Especially if it took place at light heavyweight, which it probably would. You know, Andrade. What about Andrade? Retired Groves is a likable guy, actually well fed. Yeah, yeah, that's the thing, precise. Like I was noticing that about Groves. I mean, he's got a full head of hair now, and he looks well fed. That's the thing. I'm like, is that Groves or is that the guy that ate Groves? Oh man, Triple B in the house. Yeah, Triple B in the house, man. Labor cures depression. Yeah, exactly. Go outside and do something. It's like I was thinking about making a video, but I never bothered. But basically, last time I went to Loch Lomond, which is a place I like to go to chill, I was like out swimming and just enjoying myself in the water and like just enjoying nature. And I thought to myself, there is no way that I could ever be upset, or there is no way I could ever feel bad and be depressed while I'm out here in the fresh air, just enjoying the world. But when I'm inside, sitting about, staring at a screen for too long, that's when I start to feel a bit shit. That's when I start to feel a bit sad. So I think depression is something that is self-inflicted by people who just don't want to go out and do something. The worst thing for depression is probably antidepressants. Pumping sad people with drugs has become a multi-billion dollar industry, sadly. Literal profit and misery, yeah. Yeah, I think the problem with antidepressants is you can kind of get hooked on them, and you can get, you'll end up in a situation where you rely on them, so you feel bad, you got to have your pills, it's not a way I'd want to live personally, you know. Thing is, Ramirez didn't test himself enough. Just think about it. He fed Vlasov. Oh, he fought Vlasov like 8 years ago. Hasn't really stepped up since then. Him losing to Bevo was expected. Zurdo's resume ain't great. Yeah, he kind of fell into he fell in, what's the word I'm looking for? He fell into sort of a routine of just fighting easy fights a couple times a year, getting paid well, and not really improving, not really learning from his mistakes. So I think that was a big problem with Ramirez. Very true. Nature makes me feel so much better and a long time. I know people say isolation is bad, but I like it. Absolutely. Like look, I love to just get away and go away myself for a bit and chill and just but talk to God, if you know what I mean. Pray. That's what helps me. Don't get me wrong, I went away yesterday, and I was saying earlier on the stream that me and the missus, we went for a nice 3-course meal yesterday. We stayed in a hotel, we had a good night. And yeah, this morning we went shopping and whatnot. We had fun. We had a good day. And sometimes, spending time with your loved ones is great. But I get that at times, sometimes you just want a bit of space and you want to chill out on your own. And yeah, that's my thing too. I like going out myself too, and spending time myself. I kind of enjoy my own company. And yeah, nature is always great. Like I love being in the woods. I love being in like the loch. I love just taking long walks. Go to the beach, going to even just going to the shops. Just going for a walk's good for if you're feeling down. Just go out, go to the park or something. There's ways to make yourself feel better without medicating yourself and without trying to make any drastic changes. Is Groves going to be on the back page of the newspaper with Graham Gooch and John Horston? Remember those hair replacement ads from back in the day? Yeah. Yeah, he mysteriously grew his hair back. I wonder, eh? It's about as real as Conor Benn's beard. Are you going to fight him? Am I going to fight Andrade? I don't know. Would he fight me? Send him a message and ask. Also, encourage us to do illegal drugs. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what they do, a lot of them. The lockdown was terrible for people's mental health, to be fair. Yeah, I mean, had people throwing themselves in front of trains and hanging themselves over it. So yeah, you're definitely right about that, man. You definitely are. It was horrible. God bless them. Jake Paul, Tommy Fury coming soon for the true boxing fans. I'm sure you can hardly wait. Oh yeah, I'm counting the seconds. I'm counting the seconds till that fight happens. I can't wait. I'm gonna put my entire life on hold for that fight. I'm kidding. Zerdo's best opponents before Beevil were Arthur Abraham and Jesse Hart. Yeah, they definitely were. I agree. That Abraham fight really impressed me, but since then he just wasn't interested in stepping up his competition until the Beevil fight. What fighter got you into boxing? Probably Joe Calzaghe, because he was basically the don in British boxing when I was growing up. So he was probably the one that properly got me into boxing. I remember that Lacey fight, and that was just incredible. Really inspired me. That, and I remember my mate getting it on DVD, and I remember us watching it, and it just got me hooked on boxing. A nice walk in the forest or country is fantastic. I'm having a prolonged break from alcohol as well, as that's a bad influence when taken to excess. Yeah. Do you know what else I've been doing too? I've been doing intermittent fasting. So basically, when I'm at work, I'm not eating during the day, and I'm eating my dinner when I get in. So I'm having one meal a day. So I'm losing weight, and I'm not even really thinking about food much. Like I had a big dinner yesterday because I had the day off work. Like me and the missus went for a 3-course meal, and I just felt again it was like I can do that every now and then, and I don't really feel guilty about it anymore because on regular weekdays I do my fasting, and that helps me too. Like that's helped me kind of keep my health under control. Can you see my comments, bro? There's a problem, Triple B. I can see some of your comments, but the problem is because my internet kind of crashed earlier. Um, I'm not seeing them all on StreamYard. I'm only able to see them on, or I was only able to see them on the actual YouTube tab. So if there's any comments that are being censored, I'm not able to see them. So I apologize. I keep switching back to the StreamYard tab here to see if I can see the comments, and I'll see if there's any I've missed. 1 second, because I'm trying to it seems to be running a bit more smoothly. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I can see your comments. I think see what YouTube sometimes does, it'll censor the comments and then the comments will disappear, and only I can see them on the StreamYard tab, but you can't see them on the YouTube tab. It's annoying, I know. There's not much I can do about it though. Tyson Fury was the guy who got me into boxing a couple years ago. Yeah. Yeah, I think Tyson Fury got a lot of people into boxing because obviously he did a lot to promote it in the UK. Be back in a minute, just going to the toilet. Okay, where was I? How do you see Zerdo versus Yard going? I think I mentioned earlier. I think Zerdo would completely I think he'd completely schoolyard if it was a real fight. I don't think he'd stop him. I think he'd win on points. Who's your favourite fighter now and all time? I think Pacquiao's probably my favourite fighter of all time. My favourite fighter now is probably Usyk. Yeah, I'd say Usyk's probably my favourite fighter now. Okay, I was just saying depression on the rise because pesticides, artificial sweeteners, pharmaceuticals, psychological manipulation, chemicals everywhere, and pushing fear. Yeah, couldn't have said it better myself. Absolutely. Basically everything that's artificial, everything that's produced by the government and big corporations is causing absolute just degeneracy in the world, and it's definitely making people miserable. It's definitely causing depression, no doubt about it. It's manufactured. Hopefully next week. Been a weird time. I missed them though. Yeah, you're going to be doing live streams again, Triple B. I look forward to it. StreamYard seems to be working now, thankfully. After watching Hey, I started boxing, but barely actually watched it until Fury Channel 5 days started. Yeah. Yeah, I remember Fury back in the flipping what do you call it, back in the ITV4 days as well, when he fought like Matthew Ellis and whatnot. And then when he was on Channel 5, he became sort of the poster boy for Channel 5 boxing. I remember those days, man. It's crazy looking back at it now, Looks like Ryder versus Canelo will be official soon. News breaking on it now. Well, Ryder will probably get paid very well for taking a dive, and yeah, good luck to the guy. You think Jack Catterall won against Taylor? No, I think Taylor won clearly, personally. Catterall just spoiled the whole fight, and Taylor actually came to fight, came to win. How good do you think Chris Eubank would have become if Michael Watson had got through and won that fight on points? Chris Eubank was a bit overrated in my opinion. He was a guy who was technically very limited. He was an athletic guy, but technically he was easy to beat. Defense was poor, poor punching technique, and I think he was a guy who had quite a few controversial draws and stuff like that, and he was always beatable in my opinion. I don't think he changed a whole lot after the result of that fight, to be honest. And I know that it affected him mentally, but I don't think he changed a whole lot as far as I'm concerned. I'm a big fan of Ryder, and it's sad to see his career end on a Canelo dive. Funny thing is, he would batter Canelo in a real fight. Oh yeah, I've no doubt John Ryder would beat Canelo in a real fight, but he'll take a dive like they all do, except for Beevil. Jack Carroll needs to fight Subriel Matias next. Yeah, why not, right? Why not? Or fight Prograis or someone, go ahead with that fight. Ryder is going to dive face first into the canvas after taking one of them big swinging Canelo punches. 100% Triple B. Depression is real, no doubt, but not how they say. It's a natural human emotion, usually due to living a toxic lifestyle, trauma, bad diet, drugs, etc. Yeah, and spending too much time on the internet, looking at how great other people's lives are, by comparison to your own, and your overall body chemistry and stuff like that. Like if more people just went outside and just enjoyed real life and got on their knees and prayed and be thankful for what you do have. Be thankful for your life. Be thankful for your health. Be thankful for your family, It's all right. Fury when he was Mick Hennessy's golden goose. If Mick can have such a thing. Fury stayed with him longer than some would have done, yeah. And then when Fury left, Mick Hennessy ended up depressed, apparently, because he got stuck with Huey. Stuck with Huey Fury as his golden goose. Oh, that's a shame, man. God bless him. Watching Sky River, Big Mo is such a bellend. God, they find an English bellend at least. Usyk underrated. Yeah, he is underrated. I've been a big fan of Usyk for years. Years. Eubank was scared of throwing the bombs that got him out of jail in the first few fights after the Watson thing. He had Steve Collins down and hurt after being outboxed, but refused to hit him after that. Well, I think from what I remember, he tried to hit him, but Collins was just too elusive. Collins was one of the best fighters Eubank ever fought, and he completely schooled him. Yeah, I know he got dropped at one point, but he still completely schooled him outside of getting dropped. In both fights, he won most of the rounds clearly. Catterall could beat Matias. He could beat him by like tying him up and spoiling and just fiddling and mauling his way to a points decision. But I also think he could get stopped because you're saying that that would depend on the referee. If the referee allowed Catterall to do whatever he wants, he'd probably make it the distance. I think Usyk is starting to get his props after beating Gage twice. Very underrated a few years ago, yeah. Yeah, Usyk is one of the most skilled heavyweights ever, and one of the most athletically gifted heavyweights ever. Great footwork, balance, technique. He's incredible. Great stamina, huge heart, great chin, great ring IQ. He's the full package. He's the full shebang. He's a very well-rounded fighter as far as I'm concerned. Thoughts on Jose Ramirez ducking Prograis for Richard Commey? Well, did he actually duck Prograis? If he did, then that's quite embarrassing. Fighting Richard Commey instead. Because, I mean, it's not a bad fight, but a Prograis fight would have been much better and much more interesting. Caroline Dubois is on right now. Your video on women's boxing was bang on. Opponent looks hopeless. Yeah, I mean it sums it up, doesn't it? Like that's what you get with women's boxing. You get one brand name woman fighter who's roided up to the gills and possibly a man. Then you get some absolute no hoper junkie from the street who can't fight with a fake record, who gets battered and ends up with brain damage. That's women's boxing. And that's what it's built on. Watching a Hughie Fury fight would make me depressed. I went to the docks with insomnia and was prescribed a Hughie Fury DVD and some Avatine. Yeah, Hughie Fury put anybody to sleep, man. And not in the ring. He puts you to sleep by just watching him. Worst take on boxing you've seen? Do you mean like worst opinions? People saying that Paul Smith beat Arthur Abraham. That's the worst take on boxing in history. Come on, man. Johnny Nelson let us know that Anthony Belland is technically a better boxer than Usyk. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Bellew is technically better than Usyk. And also, Usyk doesn't have the confidence to perform to the best of his ability. Those are some Johnny Nelson classic. Also, he's an average southpaw. He's not a great southpaw. Whatever that means. Do you know what? Johnny Nelson should come out of retirement and fight Usyk. I'd watch it. That'd be fun. The BBC are pushing women's football and cricket as well. Really fake and contrived. Second, a sport that gets authentically popular, and the BBC get outbid by Sky. Yeah. I mean, do you know anybody who watches women's sport? Like, do you know them in person? Like seriously, do you know any women that are interested in women's sport? I personally don't. But according to Sky and the BBC and shit, apparently it's this growing sport. It's this growing phenomenon. Well, I don't see it. I don't experience it. Charlo brothers really that good? They're okay. I'm not a big fan of them, but they're okay. Bellew said that Usyk didn't have the looks. Well, not all of us can be, the alpha Chad male model that Tony Bellew is, but I wouldn't say that he was bad looking. Tony did have a great boxing IQ, to be fair. He switched it against Cleverly, Stevenson, and Usyk. Tony Bellew just wanted to get back to his wife and kids. Once he woke up from that bomb Usyk threw, yeah, that's all Bellew ever wants, is to get home to his wife and kids. I mean, I'm surprised he's ever away from them, to be honest. Worst take on boxing I've seen is that Jack Johnson beats Fury and Klitschko on the same night. Yeah, Jack Johnson would like pretend to like throw a punch, and he would expect them to go down off their own accord, because all his fights were fixed. Klitschko would literally just stick his hand out. Jack Johnson would just run into it and get knocked out cold, like a big ramrod. Same with Fury. Have you ever seen that Jack Johnson versus Stanley Ketchel fight, that middleweight? Go and watch that. It's so fake, like obvious fake fight. So fixed. My doctor prescribed me Nicola Adams fight to defeat Maya Sonia. Do you remember when Nicola Adams retired and hardly anybody even noticed? It went completely under the radar. That's how much people gave a crap about women's boxing. Sven Ottke versus Robin Reed, supposed worst robbery ever. One of the worst takes on boxing. Yeah, I agree. Awful take. It's mainly almost all the BBC who actually put the women's sport on the television. Sky might talk about it, but note that they don't shell out for it. To be fair, it's the only live sport the BBC can get. Yeah. Yeah, BBC's not interested in boxing anymore. I think the last fight I remember the BBC broadcasting was the Lee McGregor versus Cash Farouk fight. And the BBC were pushing Cash Farouk. They wanted him to win. They were backing him. But then Lee McGregor won the fight, and the BBC commentators convinced people it was a robbery, even though it wasn't. That was another classic situation of biased commentary. I am planning to make a video on the history of sort of biased commentary on boxing and the narratives it creates, but I don't know how to start it really. But I'll probably do it at some point. Sonny Edwards would KO Jack Johnson. Easy work. Yeah, he would. And I'm not even joking about that. He probably would. There's probably guys who work at Walmart or guys who clean toilets for a living that would beat Jack Johnson, prime for prime. I grew up with Match of the Day, BBC. Yeah, a lot of people watched it. Personally, I've never been a football fan, though. Boxing's the only sport I've ever been interested in. It's the only one I've ever been that into. That woman's fight on a Don King show when the one with a 15-2 record turned out to be a street hooker and a crackhead. Yeah, Chrissy Martin versus Bethany Payne. Chrissy Martin was the one they were building, and the opponent was a stripper or a hooker who'd never had a fight before, and they had a fake record, and that's quite common in women's boxing. I've seen some terrible takes on boxing in the YTBC. Most channels don't have a clue, yeah. Especially those jogger channels, the ones who think Fulton is a pound for pound fighter because he's got 2 belts. I seen that retard John Boxing, and he was defending Gervonta Davis for running over that pregnant woman, saying that he drove away because he was scared. It wasn't his fault. It was an accident. I mean that's flat out jogger shit. That's what that is. It really sums up those people. It really does. Absolute scum of the earth. Chisora Usyk was a terrible yeah, because Usyk clearly won, and people were saying it was a robbery, but Usyk clearly won. Caroline DeBuck being pushed by Sky heartily. The fight was so bad. I bet her IQ is the same as Colony's average, 62. Yeah, wouldn't surprise me, man. Big dumb roided up woman, Better for kids, yeah. Equal boxing. Another bad take I've seen: Broner beats Josh Taylor in 2021. Do you know how much I would have loved to have seen that fight? I would have loved to have seen Josh Taylor versus Broner. Could you imagine that? Like, could you imagine Taylor pivoting and throwing hooks and uppercuts to Broner's body? Broner like shakes his head to say that didn't hurt me, and then Taylor just mauls him and beats the crap out of him. It would have been funny. Who ran over a pregnant woman again and fled the scene? What the actual? It was Gervonta Tank Davis. He ran over a pregnant woman, and then he fled the scene because he was scared. Apparently, because poor him. But it wasn't his fault. It was an accident, you know. And John Boxing, you know, he knows that that Javante didn't do nothing. It wasn't his fault. It was only because of white supremacy. You know, every time blacks do anything, every time they gang rape somebody or they stamp on somebody's head or run them over, you know, it's because they was kangs and white privilege. You know, that's why. Absolute degenerates showing their true colours. John Boxing was criticising a white fighter for being inactive and keeping his title and claiming white privilege, while Charlo hasn't fought in 18 months and still has a title. Yeah, it just sums it up, doesn't it? Sums up everything you need to know about him. Like how that guy's even still alive, I've no idea. Like, see if he behaved like that in public and actually had those views openly and showed his face. Like that guy wouldn't last long, I tell you that. Absolute degenerate. He really is. I actually agree. I agree. Chisora won 2, maybe 3 rounds and was literally out on his feet. Yeah, Usyk hurt him badly, landed more punches, threw more punches. Chisora had a couple of good rounds, maybe a few, but it was a clear win for Usyk. Reece, yes, Usyk dominated shit Zora. No idea where that story came from. Even more fraudulent than the narrative that Gage boxed well against Usyk. To Gage barely won a round. It was because Tony Bellew, Tony Bellew was on the commentary team, and he was saying that shit Zora won, and he was screaming for him ringside, and Sky Sports were acting like it was close when it wasn't. You know, that was where the narrative came from. What channels do you watch in the YTBC? I watch Triple B, Fight Film, Lee Talks Boxing, Del Boy, Blue Collar Sports, Thunderdome when he's about, but he's been inactive lately. They're probably the ones I watch mostly regularly. You know, I watch the Fight Scout. I watch. I sometimes watch True School Sports. I watch. Sometimes I watch Blood Boxing. You know, there's quite a few guys I watch sometimes. I don't know. I don't have any streams at the minute. Remember, Hay gave Chisora every round versus Hay's a piece of shit. Like him and Chisora, good friends. You know, he's his former manager. You know, he's obviously going to cook for him. I gave Chisora 1 round or 2 rounds or whatever in that fight. I thought Pulev clearly won it. I seem to remember AJ making a superior black race comments and flashing black power signs not so long ago. Just imagining a white guy doing something similar. Blimey. If a white guy did that, first of all, he'd have his license revoked. Any upcoming events involving him would be cancelled, and he would be arrested, charged with a hate crime, and the next morning he would be in court. But obviously, if one of these joggers does it, they can do what the fuck they want because, you know, the law doesn't apply to it. It doesn't apply to them. Like I said, they can gang rape somebody, run somebody over and shit, and do whatever they want. And because they didn't do nothing and because they was kangs, the law doesn't apply to them. You know, it is what it is. I've learned to accept it at this point, you know, and deal with things my own way. And Hayes' score had Chisora, but yeah, he did. He did. He's a clown. He's a complete scumbag. I mean, why would you hire a guy's former manager to be the commentator? It doesn't make any sense unless you're trying to create a biased narrative for it. The YB, I don't watch the YB. What's up, Nordic? Yeah, good to see you here, man. God bless. Have you heard of someone by the name of Jack Donovan? He's an open sodomite that's been promoted a lot in the Manosphere community. I don't know who he is, but I know that a lot of those Manosphere guys are controlled opposition, and a lot of them are anti-marriage, anti-Christian, and yeah, I've got no time for them. Reprobates. Got no time for them. Okay. Traditional values, Christian values, or bugger off. I could care less. Remember when the UK media Tried to convince us that Danny Williams had a good chance against Klitschko. Yeah, yeah. The Sky Sports were actually backing Danny Williams, and they thought he had a good chance to win because he beat a shot Mike Tyson. Then Vitali dominated him every single round and stopped him. That's quite funny. Usyk pulled away versus Chisora and won 9-3 or 10-2. Pulev, I thought, would have got the nod 7-5 or 8-4 anywhere other than the UK. Yeah, in the UK, they robbed him. It's pathetic. Pulev dominated that fight. Usyk dominated even more. JJ's Black Power sheet isn't going well considering Usyk schooled him twice. And he admitted he didn't want the Fury fight in December. Yeah. Yeah, AJ's the superior race, this chiseled Adonis who was here to prove that his race didn't do nothing and they was Kangs and they is Kangs in this day and age, and they were going to replace us and Africa's the future and whatnot. And then a little Ukrainian guy who's half his size beat the shit out of him twice, really put him in his place and buck broke him. So yeah, that says all you need to know. So it's poetic justice, it is, isn't it? God bless him. God bless Usyk. Hay is a disgusting degenerate. He's into batty business as well as pushing sickening thruple stuff in the MSM. He admitted he was bi. He a good boy, innit? Yeah, he a good boy, innit? Yeah, David Hay's a scumbag, man. He was a good fighter, but he's a scumbag. And anybody who takes up the ass is not welcome to eat at the dinner table with me, I tell you that. Someone needs to do a video exposing that satanic piece of crap. Sick of him representing manhood and masculinity when he's a supposed sodomite, written books about being a barbarian. Do you know what? He's kind of like that guy, Dave Rubin. Supposedly he's a red-pilled, like conservative, yet the guy is a sodomite and him and his boyfriend adopted a child. So God only knows what's going to happen to that poor kid. You letting sodomites raise little boys. What do you think's going to happen then? Seriously. Why do you think I'm black-pilled? Why do you think I'm sick and tired of the world at this point? What can I do about it? Nothing. All I can do is pray. Can Feigenboots win a world title? Probably not. I think he's a bit spent. For a young guy, he's taken too many beatings, and he's kind of had his time at world level, and he failed every time he stepped up. So no, I don't think so. I mean, he could win maybe a vacant title, but I can't see him being like a legit world-class fighter. Do you rate Moses Ituma? I've never watched him fight, and I'm sure he's only had one round. So we'll wait and see. I'll reserve judgment. We'll wait and see how he looks when he steps up his competition, or if he does. Danny Williams beat the corpse of Mike Tyson and must have wished he hadn't. Klitschko turned him into a paper mache with a. Where was I? One sec. Klitschko turned him into a paper mache with an 8-round beatdown. Absolutely evil beating. Ivan Drago stuff. Yeah, that sums up that fight perfectly. It's one of the most one-sided fights that you'll ever see. He only lost because of white supremacy, though. Yeah, AJ only lost because he didn't do nothing. Because he didn't do nothing, and the police and the white man just they had too much power for him. He couldn't overcome it. He couldn't overcome the pro-white establishment. Being a chiseled black power Adonis wasn't enough for him. Because them white man's always keeping the Kangs down. That's how God works. AJ also got knocked out by fat taco eater Ruiz. So much for the superior race. Yeah, a fat white Mexican named Ruiz was able to beat him by knockout. I mean, that says everything. Then he had to run away from him in the rematch to win on points. That's how the superior race roll, isn't it? David Hay not only knocked out his own younger brother in sparring, but also does him out in his front room, bullied him and smashed him. Really? I didn't know that. Well, that's not nice at all. I need to look into that. David Hayes bi. Not absolutely shocked, just a bit surprised he admitted it. puts his on-off bromance with Audley and Chisora in a different light. Do you know the stuff that Tyson Fury has been coming out with? You know, talking about romantic nights with Chisora and talking about Isaac Lowe being his personal handjob provider. It makes me wonder if they're using YouTube to, sorry, they're using boxing to really push batty business, kind of like they do with football and the rainbow flags and whatnot. It's disgusting, man. God forgive them. God bless. I hope one of these guys, Zoyge, Feigenboots, even Schwartz, wins a world title. I want the can't get a decision in Germany narrative to return for the lows. I love that, man. Like, could you imagine? I would love that if one of these guys gets a belt and when they fight one of the sort of Sky Sports guys and we'll get, oh, but we are in Germany. Can you get a decision in Germany? Oh, that would be good. You have to knock him out to get a draw in Germany. Feigenbutz versus Sturm will still be the most markable fight in Germany. The sad state of German boxing today. You know, Feigenbutz would probably beat Sturm now. Like, Feigenbutz is quite overrated, but Sturm is so shot now that Feigenbutz would probably beat him, probably on points. I don't think he'd stop him, but I think he'd probably beat him on points. Pierce, yes, he admitted in the press, like Chisora admitted swinging both ways. Haye was known to support opposing black fighters in fights against his own teammates who were white. Yeah, David Haye is he's a low key like black supremacist, isn't he? David Haye is a reprobate now. I know he became a vegan. Why Bellew wrecked him twice, but I never thought he would become a reprobate. Yeah, it's a shame, man. And like you say, have no dealings with these people, because what I've learned about reprobates is they're just they're energy sponges. They drain your energy. You know, they're like these copy pasta. You ever heard of copy pasta? It's something that atheists do on the internet. It's basically they'll go to websites and they'll copy and paste quotes from like Richard Dawkins' The God Delusion and stuff like that, and they'll post them all over videos trying to sound smart. And really, they just come across as complete idiots because they don't even understand the paragraphs that they're posting. Those people I would describe as reprobates, you know, because they're just energy sponges and we're to have nothing to do with them, you know. Fury versus that Swede too, yeah. Fury versus Otto Wallin too. That'd be interesting. First fight was competitive, you know. Press conferences will never be the same again. Noble boxers' nicknames. It's pushed in every sport. Surprisingly, some boxers and rugby players admitted they were batty before footballers did. Yeah, there was one rugby player that I think did it to become a celebrity after he retired, you know. Because there's no better way than to get headlines and become a celebrity than to say you take it up the ass and you'll get praised as a hero, you know, rather than the degenerate that you are if you engage in that sort of behavior. What do you think of Beterbiev beating Yard? How does he fare against Bivol? I was talking about this earlier. I think Beterbiev, you know, he battered Yard from pillar to post, but I think he's slowing down a bit. And I think at this point in time, I favour Bivol because he's getting better, whereas Beterbiev's on the slide now. So I favour Bivol on points if it happens. But it's a great fight. Have you seen Tony Bellew's brother Liam? Genuinely as straight as a roundabout. I've never seen him. No, I might look him up. Feigenbutz sounds like some kind of sick batty man practice that Chisora and David Haye would do together. Yeah, they're gonna do the Feigenbutz position. It's like it's one of them positions that up until recently there was no name for. Oh man. What else? What boxers' names could sound like like a porn like a porn skit or something? You know, maybe Baumgardner, Alyssa Baumgardner. Unfortunately, these athletes that aren't fruit cakes like children, it's either one or the other, or no career. Yeah, man. I know what you mean. It's good for promotion, in it, but it's bad for everything else. Worst boxing prediction you've made has to be Hay versus Bellew 1. If you guys ever want to clown me, if you ever want to take the mick out of me, go and watch my prediction for Hay versus Bellew 1. You can clown me with that one. Bivol faster than Artur Beterbiev. I agree. He's fitter too, and faster, and younger, fresher, and is much quicker on his feet. Could be the difference in the fight. I'd like to see the Joe Smith Jr. fight again. I think he breaks Yard down faster than Beterbiev did and ends him in 6. I don't think he would be as tactful as Beterbiev. So I do agree. I think Joe Smith would beat Yard, and I think he would be more aggressive about it. I know he got stopped earlier, but I think styles make fights, and I think he'd be a bad fight for Yard. There's something of the DPD about David Haye. I've always thought he wasn't exactly neurotypical. It was a former Wales player, Thomas, who I think was the first to come out. I think Strange World, yeah, certainly is. Yeah, I know what you meant, man. I was trying to put it delicately, you know. Don't want to get myself shut down, you know. I had Hay doing Bellew within 4 rounds, to be fair. I even got money on it. I think I said in my prediction Hay would end the fight anytime he wanted. Basically, whenever he felt like ending it, he would end it. That's what I thought would happen. I remember I thought Luke Campbell was going to beat Loma. I really don't know shit about boxing. To be fair, that's not one of the worst predictions ever. I mean, it's a bad prediction, don't get me wrong, but I've heard worse, you know. I mean, people were picking Rigo to beat Loma, a lot of people. So you don't know that little about boxing, you know. In my old channel, I showed a clip of the Welsh rugby batty man on BBC commentating on a guy grabbing someone else's balls in a game. Welsh said if this was allowed in my day, I'd still be playing. Oh man, that's just you got a strike, man. That's disturbing. That's so disturbing. Alicia Baumgardner is kind of sexy for a female black boxer. She got a nice smile and a nice horse, unlike that ugly zoo animal, Clarissa Shields. Yeah. All I can say about that is R.I.P. Harambe. R.I.P. Harambe. Prime Hay versus Usyk. I was talking about this earlier. I think Usyk would survive an early scare from Hay, and I think he'd stop him late or win by a wide decision. I think the difference in stamina and boxing skill, as well as chin, durability, and footwork, would favor Usyk in that fight, you know. So yeah, in short, I'd favor Usyk. Haydu and Bellew takes on a new meaning. Yuck. Given recent revelations. Apologies, too far. Yeah, that was a bit too on the nose. That one, man. Oh man, all this talk about batty business has given me a sore throat. I don't know why, but for whatever reason, my throat's all dry. Probably because of all the talking. I thought Chisora would have beaten Fury in the second fight. Yeah, you know, to be fair, a lot of people picked Chisora in both of those fights. Like, I don't recall anyone picking him in the third fight, but for the first two, I picked Fury in the. I, I think the first fight I was undecided on, but the second one I picked Fury. I gave Chisora a chance in the first fight, but the second fight I was confident Fury would win. And the third fight was obviously a mismatch. I don't think anybody was picking Chisora to win, not even Chisora himself. Tyron Zoiga wasn't a bad German fighter. He will attempt a comeback. He hasn't fought in over 3 years. Yeah, Tyron Zoiga has never been the same ever since that beating against Rocky Fielding, which was, I thought he took a dive, you know, because it was that ridiculous. He just fought like a complete idiot that night. But yeah, ever since then, he's done bugger all, hasn't he? Recent bad take, I had Parker beating Joyce. I had Parker beating Joyce. I was wrong about that. I did say that Joyce could stop him late, but I thought Parker could win on points. I thought that was the most likely one. So yeah, that's another bad take from me, you know. Back to boxing. I used to think David Price was going to do Fury if they met. Quite an amusing prediction, yeah. Do you know, you never know. I would give Price a puncher's chance against Fury from back then. I don't think he would beat him, but I give him a puncher's chance. Who would you certainly beat out of the well-known boxers, and who would you duck? I wouldn't duck anybody. I'd fight anybody because I'm hard. I'm kidding. No, no, but I would fight anybody. Honestly, I mean, put it even if I lose, put it on my channel, get me views on it. But I probably beat like guys from the lower divisions, like Sonny Edwards and Chocolatito and guys like that, because I'm just too big. But people my own size, world class fighters, I probably lose. You know. Dimitri Bivol versus Joe Calzaghe would be epic. An epic clash with thousands of punches per round. Could you imagine that? Like that would be such a high paced fight. It would tire you out watching it. I don't even know who I'd pick, to be honest. Bivol's a bit bigger than Joe, although Joe may have been naturally bigger, but Bivol's more like filled out and muscular and has still got great stamina, maybe better boxing fundamentals. Joe was a bit quicker, didn't punch as hard, but was more effective on the inside. I'd favour Bivol, but in a very close fight. Price in the first 4 rounds against Fury would have been dangerous. Definitely. Price is dangerous against anybody. He had the power to knock anybody out. Who wins? AKA Skins or Ben behind me, Heine? AKA Skins, probably. I don't know. I don't know if either of them can fight. I'm pretty sure Fury won't fight Usyk. We'll only believe it when he's in the arena on fight night. Pretty sure he wants the marquee paydays now. Well, the Usyk fight would be a big payday just because it's undisputed. It would bring a lot of attention, you know. It's a historic fight. Kovalev versus Calzaghe. Prime for prime, I favour Kovalev on points. I think he outboxes Calzaghe. His power and his long-range boxing would be the difference, in my personal opinion. Plus, he's the bigger guy, bigger puncher. I think Kovalev wins it. Bad fight for Calzaghe stylistically. I think Kovalev wins it. Jürgen Brähmer, who trained Zoiga, even threw a bottle of water at the promoter after the fight against Fielding, which proved the fix was in. Yeah, because Brähmer and Zoiga both had a massive legal battle with Sauerland, and they wanted out of their contracts. And that's why I think both of them took dives. Brähmer took a dive against Cleverly, obvious dive. And I think Zoid took an obvious dive against Rocky Fielding also. Conveniently, both matchroom fighters within a few months of each other, you know, or something like that. Yeah, I thought he'd win on points. I think Parker came in way too heavy. I'm unsure on him with Andy Lee to look sluggish in his recent fight. Yeah, and Andy Lee, he's an okay trainer, but he's not great, you know, not that experienced. What ring walk music you fancy? Probably something from the Spyro the Dragon soundtrack. Check out Beastmakers from Spyro 1. That'd probably be my ring entrance. My ring entrance music. Either that or something from Hitman, but probably Beastmakers from Spyro 1. Bivol has more pop in all his punches, whereas Calzaghe was a vicious slapper. Yeah, he was. Calzaghe was like getting stuck in a wasp nest fighting him, you know? It's also amusing to think that Froch was calling out Calzaghe in 2008, 2006. His face would have resembled Princess Di after the crash if they met. Yeah, Froch never wanted to fight Calzaghe. He was just using his name for publicity. And yeah, he would have gotten absolutely battered if that fight happened. I'm also assuming to think that Froch was calling out Calzaghe. Sorry, I already read that. My bad. Joseph Parker seems like a lovely guy in real life. Probably his problem as a fighter, too nice. Yeah, he's not mean enough. He needs to learn from Crawford how to be mean so that he can be less nice, I guess. Usyk needs to fight Fury. Oh, sorry, Usyk needs to fight someone instead of waiting on Fury. I'm sick of dumb fans crying about boxers cherry picking bums, but also cry about the boxer not staying busy. KO 10 bums a year for all I care. Yeah, I agree. I'd like to see these guys stay busy, but it's just not the way things are done in the sport now, you know? Carl Crotch, yeah. Carl Crotch. Parker was trying to fight like Andy Lee himself in that fight, trying to fight in a booth style. I don't know why Andy would train anyone in that style. He got dropped consistently fighting like that. Yeah, Andy Lee was a guy who relied on his power and his size too much. He wasn't that great technically. And Joseph Parker didn't have a size advantage or a power advantage over Joyce, did he? Joseph Parker isn't degenerate enough, too civilized, yeah. You probably do need to be degenerate to a certain extent to be like an elite level fighter, probably. Wouldn't surprise me one bit. Weird take, but I believe Joe Calzaghe underperformed because he definitely wasn't juicing like everyone else. And because of his hand problems, someone said Calzaghe hit the hardest on the bag. Well, interestingly, if you look at the early part of Calzaghe's career, he used to be a big puncher. He knocked a lot of guys out. But then what happened was he was wrapping his hands in a way that wasn't protecting them properly, and he ended up breaking his power hand and damaging it multiple times, which led to a lot of layoffs and cancelled fights. So that kind of damaged his power. So yeah, Calzaghe in his prime definitely had a lot of power, but when he was fighting, obviously later in his career, he was more of a slapper and a guy who went the distance. Butterbean versus Andy Ruiz. Andy Ruiz by late stoppage, but Butterbean probably hurts him early. And I give Butterbean a puncher's chance, but I think Ruiz probably wins. Butterbean's a bigger puncher, though. White versus Wallin still on. Otto's going to end White's career if that happens, or going to end in tears if that happens. I think that's a real fight. I think Wallin wins on points. I think he outboxes White. I think Wallin wins on points. What are your thoughts on Tyan Booth? As a fighter, he was just a journeyman, nothing more. As like a commentator online, to be honest, I'm not really that interested. I listened to one of his videos. I got no problem with the guy, but I didn't really find him that funny, to be honest. I find him a little bit repetitive, and yeah, I just not really got much of an opinion on him, truth be told. But again, no beef with the guy. I've got no problem with him. I got Butterbean by 4th round KO. Yeah, he has a puncher's chance. Butterbean versus Ruiz. The post-fight buffet will be the highlight. Yeah, Butterbean versus Ruiz in like a pie eating contest or a hot dog eating contest. That would be more entertaining than the actual fight itself. Calzaghe versus Hagler. Calzaghe stops Hagler easily. Mismatch, in my opinion. Too big, too skilled. Exactly, Nordic. In the ABAs, he flattened all the top guys. Catley, Jason Matthews, Dean Francis. Yeah, Calzaghe was a big puncher as an amateur. He had a lot of amateur knockouts. And in his early pro career, he blew everybody away near enough early. I think the only guys that went the distance were like really tough journeymen, like Bobby Joe Edwards at cruiserweight and whatnot, who was Eubank's cousin. But like the regular journeyman that Calzaghe fought and the British level guys he fought, he knocked him out. Like, he had a lot of power in his prime. I'll get my money on Wallin by stoppage. He'd be good enough. Yeah, I think probably on points I'd go for Wallin. If he doesn't get robbed, I think he wins on points. Well, Butterbean is from Texas, and Texans been whipping Mexicans ever since the Alamo. So yeah, Butterbean by KO. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can send him across the border with his tacos and burritos. Calzaghe beat the shit out of Hagler easily. I agree. Triple G versus Calzaghe. Calzaghe on points. Throws way too many. He might get dropped, but he throws way too many punches. He'd outwork and outland Triple G and win on points. Calzaghe, Roy Jones, both in their prime. I go with Calzaghe, close decision, but it would be a much closer and much harder fight than it was when they fought, you know. Smith elbowed Eubank. No, the elbow just brushed against him. It didn't do any damage. It's just an excuse. Yeah, God bless you too, Kyle. God bless. I saw a movie trailer about George Foreman. It's called Big George Foreman. I got recommended that, but I didn't watch it. I might watch it though. Not a big fan of boxing movies, but occasionally some of them are all right. Wonder who's going to play George Foreman. GGG would stop Kawasaki late. I don't think so. I think he could drop him, but I don't think he'd stop him. Kawasaki fought much bigger punchers, and he fought guys like Kessler and Lacey and guys like that. Much bigger guys than Triple G, and some of them were bigger punchers. I think he would beat Triple G on points. Butterbean said his problem in his career was women, not food. Imagine believing yeah. Butterbean, like the Chad. Butterbean had too many women cooking for him. That was it. Cooking him his big dinners. You ever seen that Japanese guy take on a bear in a hot dog eating contest? No, I've never seen that. I might check that out. Sadly, Puerto Ricans been failing me in boxing. Yeah, Puerto Ricans used to be doing better back in the day. Like you had like Trinidad and Cotto and whatnot. But nowadays, who's the best you got? Xander Zayas? I mean, who is there now? I don't know, man. It's a shame, innit? Triple B versus Max Jenkins. What round does Triple B win? Triple B in the first round with a jab, with the first punch that lands. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Remember Calzaghe versus Mark Delaney on ITV? Every time Calzaghe touched Delaney, he went down like a sack of whatever, had frightening power till his hands went, yeah. That was considered I think some people considered that 50-50 going in. A lot of people thought Delaney was a big test for Joe, and he completely destroyed him. I think he stopped him in round 5. So yeah, that was kind of his like big coming out party where he announced himself at British level, So I think that fight was for the British title. And both guys were undefeated contenders. Roy Jones is full of crap with the elbow excuse. Yeah, what a lame excuse, especially when he, like Fight Film was pointing out how, he was dick riding Andre Ward all that time, but he's got a problem with elbows all of a sudden. AJ's a disgusting human being, spitting out anti-white rhetoric while getting all his fights fixed by the tribe. He knows who his real masters are. Disingenuous, fake, yeah. Yeah, all the Bergs and the Steins, they're his real masters. And let's not forget his promoter's a white man. So AJ, while saying all that, don't shop in their shops. He was on the plantation, getting whipped and going, yes sir, yes sir, yes sir, because we was kings, yes sir. And don't stop in their shops and come down to ends in it, yes sir. Yeah, paint him black and send him out into the fields. I'd take Sturm and Abraham over Hagler. I agree. Hagler was average. American propaganda had deceived people into believing he was great. Yeah, he was a face first, come forward brawler, and any elite level European fighter beats him, in my opinion, in modern day. Triple B KO round 3. You're giving Max Jenkins more credit than he's due, man. Making it to round 3. Creed 3 is coming out soon. You must be counting the days. Oh, I can't wait, man. I can't wait to see, the We Was Kangs and She at, number 3, and Rocky died from cancer, which is what we all want to see from the Rocky series. And we want to see Creed's, bastard son take over and become the true heavyweight Kang. We want to see that, though. I loved it when Drago knocked him out. Wilder KO'd by Russian Olympics. So, yeah, I used to have it on my channel. Evgeny Romanov. So, women were the reason Butterbean was fat. I didn't know he was a cannibal. That's good, man. That was a good one. I appreciate that. Not sure about that one. I have no doubt Triple B can outbox Maximus, but the size and power of Max will be difficult to take. I'll go Triple B by close decision. Yeah, he's a big lump, isn't he? So you may have a point there. Had no business being in the ring. Remember the commentators in the second fight with Usyk. Oh, he's still learning. Then how he turned pro in the first place with only amateur fights? Fraud. Yeah, exactly. If he's still learning, then why is he fighting for titles and that? Calzaghe had a weird thing where he'd outclass top-level opponents he faced, but have wars with lesser skilled fighters. Still a great fighter nonetheless. Yeah, guys like Robin Reed and Kabari Salem gave him some of his toughest fights, but he destroyed the likes of Lacey and Kessler. Why do people rate Roy Jones so high when he was an admitted juicer and even failed a drug test? Because he didn't do nothing. That's why, because he didn't do nothing. Because he didn't do nothing, and he was an inventor and sheet. He invented the dustpan and the TV. That's why. By the way, the Steadfast Baptist Church released new a brand new documentary on YouTube called the Preserved Word. It's about the history of the King James Bible and the persecution of the men behind the translation. Yeah. Do you know what I did watch not too long ago? It was John Rhys Davis's documentary on the King James Bible. I'd recommend that too. That was a good one, and I'll check that one out too. How would you fight Karim Guerfi? I don't know. He's all right. Do you think I'd probably beat Karim Guerfi? He's too small for me. Do you think Joe could and should have gone after Malinga, Lyles early in his championship career? They had belts. I think Joe wasted a few years. Well, I think the problem with Joe is he had that sort of Frank Warren career where he was just defending the WBO title against easy opposition for years. So I think it was more down to him. But yeah, I think Joe could have, like, he could have fought Svenotki, he could have fought Malinga, could have fought a lot of guys, you know. But it is what it is. Still had a great career. Karim Guerfi retired recently. He was a decent European level fighter. Yeah, that knockout in the first round with where he got stopped by Lee McGregor was quite impressive. Lee McGregor did well that night. Are they still milking the Rocky franchise? They absolutely ruined it. They should have seen Rocky 5 as a warning. Yeah, they ruin every franchise, man. They've always got infest them all with diversity and LGBT and more this and more that, you know. Nah, Triple G would do it like David Hay Harrison, touch him up a bit a few rounds so the fans don't tick off. Yeah, just let him land one jab. He never belonged in the ring. He hasn't got fighting mentality like a jogger, to be fair. They're not interested when they don't have an unfair advantage yet. Most joggers prefer it when it's 10 on 1. You know, when they're fighting a 15-year-old girl and there's like 10 of them and they can jump on their heads, you know. That's what they prefer. Because they was kangs and shit. Do you like Peter Fury? Nope. Peter Fury's a former drug dealer and a bellend. I don't like him. I mean, he's a good trainer, though, to be fair. He's knowledgeable about the sport, so I respect him in that sense. Creed 3 looks like bum-ass Wakanda boxing movie for the welfare recipients, yeah. Creed 3 is because Creed's mate is getting out of prison, who is also a Dindu. You know, he didn't do nothing, and, you know, he's angry that he's angry that Creed is getting his reparations because he didn't do nothing, but he didn't get his reparations. So the two are going to have a battle of the Dindus to find out which one of them didn't do nothing more than the other, and find out which one of them is King of Wakanda. But they'll find out that the real King of Wakanda is Tyson Fury. You know, he'll show up and just batter both of them at the same time. You know, Fury and Usyk should show. That's how that movie should end. Like Fury and Usyk should show up, like with like holding a big flag that says "White Lives Matter," and they should just stamp on flipping Creed and that other Dindu. You know, bitch slap them and take over. You know, and say we're the real kings. We're kings of Wakanda. Balboa versus Usyk. I think Rocky Balboa is technically a better boxer than Usyk and would outbox him. Tony Belland, yeah. Yeah. Adrian! Yo, Adrian! Oh, that fifth Ebony Bridges has an only... Oh, yeah, that filth Ebony Bridges. OnlyFans is cancer on society. Yeah, Carl Frampton was like that. He fought to the level of his competition. Same with Fury. Fury struggled with guys like Cunningham and Further, but then beat guys like Klitschko and Wilder and whatnot. Joe struggled with guys who fought dirty, Salem Beaker, or horrible, awkward spoilers, Thornbury, Starry. I'm just glad Matt Barney was never in the top 5. Could you imagine? That would have been such a boring fight. Probably would have gone 12 rounds. I'm Dutch, and the King James Holy Bible saved my life. Yeah, yeah. My faith in Jesus Christ saved my life too. I must admit, and I've been reading the King James Bible lately. The WBO belt hold Joe back. Imagine him holding the WBC belt a decade. He would have been in many more good fights. Yeah, he would have had much tougher mandatories. Do you lift weights? I don't lift weights anymore. I used to, but what I do though is sometimes when I'm at work, I do like bulk uplift. So I lift like couches and wardrobes and stuff and washing machines and whatnot. And I guess that's kind of like lifting weights, lifting them onto the van and taking them to the dump and whatnot. So I get plenty of exercise doing that. Lee McGregor is fighting on the Ritson Davis card, even though he's fighting a bum. It's good that he's back after a year out. Yeah, his last fight, he looked terrible. So I'm glad he's getting back in the ring and shaking off the rust. Chisora couldn't even beat Bellew. Oh, Creed couldn't even beat Bellew. Yeah, Bellew beat Creed. He did. By split decision, but he still beat him. Before he started punching like a mule, Chris Rock made that famous comment, there are black people in it, and then there are, yeah. Remember that being a controversy back in the night. Well, he's right. There are regular black people who have assimilated into society, and then there's those people, there's joggers, which sadly makes up the majority of the population because they're into gangster rap and shit. Go and look up some of Thomas Sewell's views on black people and whatnot. He has some interesting. Yeah, he's a black guy himself, but he's an intellectual and he has some interesting views on sort of black culture. No man born from his mother could stop Matthew Barney. He had a better chin than Butte, clearly, yeah. He had a Marius Wack chin. Derek Chisora modeled his defense on Balboa's. He thought Rocky was real and apparently and a Hall of Famer, yeah. And he thought that Joe Frazier was like the greatest heavyweight ever. So he tried to fight like him. If he'd ever fought a guy like Povetkin, he'd have probably got laid out. Who would you like to see Wilder fight next? AJ. Wilder versus AJ is like the best fight for them, I think. And it could be a brutal knockout either way. But I favour AJ. Saw an interview with GayJ recently. He said he's building an empire for his family with yeah. GayJ's an idiot, man. Let him do whatever he wants. As far as I'm concerned, Usyk is his daddy. Usyk owns him. He'll be, he'll never get past that. If you know what I mean. Is Ben Shalom 18 yet? I have no idea. To be fair, Froch only discovered his Magic Lewis Resto gloves between Barney and Butte, yeah. Yeah, when he never took them off after the fight. Gee, I wonder why. Do you think these boxers sold their souls like actors and musicians do? No doubt about it. On the obvious one that comes to mind is Mayweather. What do you think? Yeah, Mayweather's definitely part of the club, and he was pushed and protected by the establishment for many years, and to an extent, he still is. So I've no doubt that they sell their souls and perform some sort of humiliation ritual and whatnot. That's a line from Macbeth, isn't it? I'm not sure, is it? Now, thanks to BLM, Hollywood, and the mainstream media, even the regular blacks are unassimilating. Yeah, well, regular blacks think it's okay to, jump on the heads of 15-year-old girls, when there's 10 of them because they was kangs and because they didn't do nothing. KJ's doing porta potty in Saudi to build for his peeps in it. His peeps from ends in it. From the tower blocks down ends. I heard you mention that scumbag Ben Shapiro recently. I remember that piece of crap used to demonize people for wanting borders. Yet he was fine with Israel having borders. Yeah, yeah. Well, that's that certain Middle Eastern country that you're not allowed to criticize, isn't it? Because if you criticize them, you're an anti-Semite. You know, you'll have all the Goldsteins and the Steinbergs and all them fucking big nose bastards coming at you if you talk about that Middle Eastern country. You know, nothing bad has ever happened in that particular country. They've never done anything wrong. They've never committed any crimes or atrocities, and you know that they're just an absolute land of pure perfection. You know, nothing wrong with them. His white daddy, yeah. Shout out to Blue Collar Sports. God bless you. Ben Shalom is a weird character. Eyes of a serial killer. Yeah, I don't like the look of him either. He's a dodgy type, isn't he? I wouldn't be surprised if he had dodgy stuff on his computer. Ben Shapiro, yeah. But hypothetically, he's an idiot, that guy. I can't stand him. White supremacy. I want to bitch slap Ben Shapiro. Did you ever see where he pretended to get caught on a hot mic, basically admitting what he really believed about pansexuality and all that? But clearly he did that on purpose because he actually moved the mic up to look at his face when he stood up. Some of you will know what I'm talking about. Like, go watch Mark Dice's video about Ben Shapiro and his hot mic incident. I'm pretty sure he did that on purpose. Who's more overrated, Mayweather or Ali? They're both overrated, but I'd say Mayweather because I think Mayweather was complete shit as far as I'm concerned. A complete bum and a fraud. Lee Talks Boxing. Frotch was still wearing his gloves in the post office. Next day, apparently, yeah. Yeah, he still had him driving home. What do you think of the Nicola Bully case, and what are they covering up in the media by pushing the missing person story so hard? It's probably going to be some anti-marriage, traditional family situation where it's probably going to be, oh, it was the boyfriend that did it, and you know he was abusive or whatever. So all men are evil. So I don't know. It's probably something like that, isn't it? I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know. Maybe it's all a real story. I've no idea. I haven't really looked into it, truth be told. One thing I find interesting is Lennox Lewis team throwing up devil horns versus Klitschko and Fury doing it after Wilder 3. I wonder how deep it goes, the selling of the soul. It's probably a lot more convoluted than any of us will understand, you know. I certainly don't understand it. They know for a fact the mainstream media and the police are on their side. That's why they feel comfortable acting up so much. Stupid as they are, blacks know when they have a good thing. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm not saying that they're geniuses or anything like that, but they know that no matter what happens, no matter what they do, no matter what crimes they commit, they didn't do nothing and it was the white man's fault. Like Javante Davis can run over a pregnant woman and drive away and get off scot-free because he didn't do nothing and because white supremacy, because more diversity, you know. Shalom's name tells you everything you need to know. Yeah, Shalom. Yeah, it tells you everything you need to know. Absolutely. My mate / work manager stepdaughter is pansexual and is strangely defensive of her whilst pretending not to notice the genocide that's happening to our people. Yeah. Again, look, I don't care anymore because, to be honest, there's nothing I can do about it. What can I do about it? Am I going to be able to form an army and drive out all invaders like flipping Robert the Bruce and take back our country? No, it's never going to happen, is it? So nothing I can do about it, man. God bless. But I agree with you. I really do. You know, it's like the whole Gamergate situation. It's you can destroy our culture, you can take away our entire way of life, but just don't touch our video games because that's all we've got left. You know, is what it is, man. I think Ali's more overrated. Mayweather was a much better boxer. I think a lot of people keep it real with his career. Ali is heralded as the GOAT, which is nonsense. Yeah, you might have a point there. The half man, half rat David Greenblatt, sorry, Diamante, lost an arm and had a broken spine, but still managed to commentate on a Brooklyn Nets game. Hero. Yeah, he's built different, that guy, isn't he, man? He's built different. Just as someone at work changed their name to a car's name and come out as non-binary, my brain hurts. Trivializes what real people actually go through. Just sums up the further retardation of society, doesn't it? And again, there's nothing I can do about it. What is pansexual? Coitus with a frying pan. Yeah. You get the frying pan and you flipping smear it with grease and you rub your balls on it or something. I don't know, man. It makes as much sense as anything, doesn't it? As for the Nicola Bully case, there's more to it. Police failed to secure a crime scene and ruled out foul play with no idea of what actually happened. Weird. I don't know. Maybe she just fell in the river and I don't know, man. God bless her. I don't know. I don't know what happened there. I have not looked into it at all. I saw Triple B's video. That was about it. Floyd. Where was I? Sorry. Pansexual with the crockery pal. What's the crockery pal? Yeah, hide your pans. There's pansexuals about. I'm sick of stupid conservatives saying that Dindus truly believe they're the victims of oppression. They know that's a load of hot garbage. They know damn well they are a protected class. Of course they do. Maybe they're not that stupid, right? Dindus know for a fact that they have it easier to get a job, that they get much more lenient sentences off the law, and in many cases the law doesn't apply to them. They know this, right? Which is why they act up. Which is why after the whole George Floyd situation, we had Dindus running around Ireland, you know, giving it that London ghetto slang, talking about you get me fam and all that rubbish, and stabbing people. And as far as I'm aware, nobody was convicted. But the police know who it is, the community know who it is, and nothing happened. Is what it is. Living in the end times, I'm telling you, man. God bless. Floyd rocked by that Mexican overhand seconds before the bell. Yeah, the what do you call it? The Philly shell doesn't work good against the overhand right, you know, in real fights. But go figure, were Floyd's fights ever real? I don't know. I don't think so. At least not most of them. My mate is pansexual. I caught him in bed with a wok. It's a good one. Well, someone in my class, I was in school, came out as non-binary at 14 and changed its name to Seto Jordan. See, if that happened in my school, they would have got wedgied and probably got their head in the toilet or something. Times have changed. Not for the better. Bro, all the biblical predictions are coming true and there's nothing we can do. It's difficult and frustrating, but it's written. Exactly. There's nothing in the Bible about a utopia, about a Christian utopia. The world is going to end, and if you trust in Jesus, you'll be saved. No amount of Richard Dawkins, the God delusion, copy pastor is going to convince me otherwise, okay? Trust in Jesus and you shall be saved. Who's your favorite heavyweight from the 90s golden era? Probably Larry Holmes. I think he was a great heavyweight from that era, I think. Might tell my workplace I'm converting to a Red Bull can so I can get a week off at this point. Yeah. It makes about as much sense as anything. Ben Shapiro also said that Batman vs. Superman was a great movie and that Justice League, the movie Snyder Cut, was one of the best hero movies ever. Well, Ben Shapiro's an idiot, and that's exactly the kind of dumb, retarded shit I'd imagine he would say. If you can't be asked to read the whole Bible, just read Revelations. The madness of the world becomes much clearer. It does. It does become much clearer because the end times are coming. Believe it or not, they're coming. We'd get bullied if we spoke like the Zoomers do today. Mate, if I spoke like that, I probably wouldn't be alive today if I spoke like that in school. I'm the only one that wants to see that stupid fool KSI get his Scooby-Doo looking face battered. I'm sick of people trashing Paul Brothers, but acting like KSI is cool or something. Yeah, I got no opinion on KSI at all. I've never watched a single video of his, and I know nothing about him. I don't want to know anything about him, to be perfectly honest. What happened to wedgies and heads down the toilet? I just avoided the cock of the year like the plague. Remember pylons when 20 of us crushed some poor sap? We all had that done to us once. Yeah, I had something similar done to me, I tell you that. I remember when I walked home from primary school once, like one of the most violent primary school incidents I ever had was I got into a fight with some kid and I slapped him. And then him and a bunch of his mates waited for me after school. And about 7 or 8 of them jumped me and started beating the shit out of me. Right? They threw me into a puddle. They like pulled my hat off. They threw my bag and everything. And then while they were walking away, because I'd taken a beating, I went after one of them. He was like one of their instigators, and I just went fucking ape shit, and I started beating the shit out of this kid, and I had him against a hedge, and then these two like the parents that were there to pick up the kids came, and they saw me just punching fuck out of this boy, and his mates basically started leaving. They abandoned him, and I think about 4 or 5 adults ran in and grabbed me and restrained me. And then the next day I ended up, or like it was a Friday, so I think it was on the Monday or whatever, or whenever I was back after like the days off. They took me into the flipping into the headmaster's office, and I got in trouble over it as if it was me that started the whole thing, because the parents must have told them, yeah, that psychopath child was beating that poor boy up. And yeah, so I got in big trouble over that. That was like one of the most like that was one of the most like that was like my first experience of just sheer violence and just losing the plot. Was I got jumped by a whole group of lads, and then while I was walking away, like licking my wounds, like embarrassed because it happened in front of like the whole school, I went after one of them when he was on his own, like in front of the parents and everything. And I was like a berserk animal, just slugging punches at him. It was crazy, man. Yeah, he never bothered me after that. That was like the most violent thing that happened in primary school with me. There was a lot worse things that happened in high school, but that was like my first incident of it. Kind of got hooked on violence after that. Bro, a policeman, yeah, I know, told me that Saint Stephen Lawrence was robbing old women in the area, and he drew the knife, which the white guys grabbed off him and stabbed him. Oh, really? Interesting. Amen, brother. Jesus is Lord. No man cometh to the Father but by Jesus Christ. Yeah, absolutely. No man will go to the Father but through his Son, his only begotten Son, who died on the cross for our sins. God bless. I used to watch KSI's FIFA videos back in the day. To think he'd become a boxer from then is crazy. I didn't know who he was until the Logan Paul situation. Ben Shapiro's a total DC fangirl. He pretends that the DCEU is right wing, but Marvel is left wing. What a clown. Yeah, they're both left wing. They're both everything on TV is left wing. Let's be honest. How good was videos in the pipeline? And how good was video? Oh, yeah, retrospective videos. I'm gonna do my what do you call it? The one I was meant to do at the end of last year. My Clinton Woods one. Um, my retrospective on him. That's the next one that's going to be done. That might be the next video on the channel. We'll see. So yeah, stay tuned for that. And there'll be more to come afterwards. Today's heavyweights, some of them like Usyk and Fury would dominate in the 90s because they're just too big. But I'd say someone like Dillian White would probably not be able to compete at a very high level. But see if you take like the Klitschko's or Fury and any of the big guys, they'd probably clean up. Anyway, guys, I'm getting tired, and I might jump over to the shop before calling it a night. So yeah, man, I'm gonna be ending this soon. Yep, I agree, Del Boy. Superhero movies, they're they're trash. They're just social engineering. That's what they are, man. So yeah, have a good one, guys. Been fun talking. Might do another live stream maybe next week or something. We'll see. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for stopping by. God bless each and every one of you. Stay vigilant.